Now, the Fallout franchise features an abundance of weird and wonderful post-apocalyptic weapons that the player can use to wreak havoc upon their foes with. Now, while most might be relatively easy to obtain or will be given to you upon completing a quest, there are still a significant number of weapons that do require some sleuthing and effort. Now, exploration is definitely a key part of the Fallout franchise, and with the vast worlds and environments to explore, it's no surprise that the developers want to encourage players to take the risk to see what treasures await. And boy howdy are some of them absolutely brilliant, and most of them are some that players didn't even find. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 secret Fallout weapons that no one found. Number 10. Fallout 4 The Harvester. Found stashed inside a steamer trunk on the top floor of Echo Lake Lumber Building in Fallout 4's Far Harbor DLC, the Harvester is a devastating melee weapon that is definitely worth finding. Now, you'll need to dispatch a large number of ghouls on your way to get your hands on this weapon. However, the journey is well worth the hassle, as you're getting one of the best melee weapons in the entire game. The Harvester only deals 9 damage, which seems like it's nothing to write home about. However, when coupled with the very fast speed, it doesn't take long to shred your enemies to pieces. This unique Ripper variant also boasts the staggering perk, which means that each hit also has a chance to stagger your enemies, giving you even more chances to deal tons of damage when they're unable to attack you back. Therefore, the Harvester is a solid choice for any Soul survivor that is looking to get up close and personal with their adversaries. Number 9. Fallout New Vegas Gobi Campaign Scout Rifle. Found in a location conveniently known as Sniper's Nest, situated east of Camp Searchlight, is a very unique sniper rifle variant called the Gobi Campaign Scout Rifle. Locked away in a very hard level gun case, it's a tough weapon to get your hands on, as there's no key that will open the lock. So it's definitely worth dropping a save before attempting to pick this bad boy. The unique sniper rifle has a much higher critical hit damage than its standard variant counterpart, so makes for a great choice for those of you who want to build their characters for a very high critical hit chance. The weapon also has higher durability than most standard sniper rifles, meaning that you won't have to worry about repairing it quite so often. Sadly though, as with all unique weapons in Fallout New Vegas, the weapon cannot be modified, so what you see here is what you will get for your entire venture in the Mojave. That being said, apart from perhaps a suppressor for those silent long-range shots, there's not really much more you could ask for when it comes to a sniper rifle. Number 8. Fallout 2 Little Jesus. This signature weapon of choice for New Reno crime boss Lil Jesus Mordino, this unique combat knife is one of the most powerful one-handed melee weapons in the game. Now, players will meet Little Jesus hanging out in Desperado in New Reno, so the weapon itself is not that difficult to find. However, to get your hands on the weapon, well, that will require some bloodshed, as it can only be obtained by killing this crime boss. The weapon deals up to 14 points of damage and boasts the Weapon Penetrate perk, meaning it will lower enemies' damage threshold by 80% when used. This makes it one of the most devastating weapons in the game for those that like to get up close and personal. Plus, the removal of a sinister crime boss is likely a fair price to pay to get your hands on such a wicked weapon. Number 7. Fallout 3 Smuggler's End. Found within Elder Lyons' personal safe within his room of the B-Ring of the Citadel in Fallout 3, Smuggler's End can be a real pain in the neck to find, and is not directly linked to any quests. To get your hands on this, you'll need high skills in lockpicking or science, as you'll either need to pick a very hard lock on the safe or hack a very hard terminal to open the safe. The unique laser pistol does 50% more damage than the standard variant, making this a good option for those who prefer their firearms a little more toasty. Smuggler's End is also a unique laser pistol that shoots twice as fast as its standard variant when not in VATS, allowing you to rain devastation on your enemies in rather rapid succession. While it is difficult to find, grabbing Smuggler's End for yourself doesn't count as stealing and therefore results in no negative karma, so it would be rude not to just take it. Number 6. Fallout 4 Prototype UP-77 Limitless Potential. Found inside the University Credit Union at University Point is a unique laser weapon called Prototype UP-77 Limitless Potential. More than just a mouthful to say, the weapon boasts the never-ending weapon perk, meaning that it never ever needs to be reloaded and will continue to fire as long as you have ammunition. To get your hands on the weapon, players will need to bypass a novice-level terminal to gain access to a bank vault within the University Credit Union building. Once inside the bank vault, you'll need to unlock a master-level safe that contains a red button. Once the button is pressed, a room will be revealed behind a wall to the right, where Prototype UP-77 will be sat on the table in the center of the room. Depending on your level when you unveil this weapon, Prototype UP-77 can either take the form of a unique laser pistol or a laser rifle. However, fear not, as either variant will still have the never-ending weapon perk. Number 5. Fallout 2 Solar Scorcher. A unique energy weapon found in the special encounter Guardian of Forever sees the player transported back in time to Vault 13. The Solar Scorcher is found on the floor floor of the armory in Vault 13, so make sure you grab it when you're there, as sadly there's no way to return to this Vault 13 once you've completed the encounter. The unique energy weapon boasts some respectable damage, but the main draw here is that the weapon draws on solar power to charge, meaning that it requires no ammunition whatsoever. And as well as having unlimited ammunition, the Solar Scorcher doesn't require reloading that saves your action points that can then be used to fry your enemies alive. However, as the name suggests, this weapon does require sunlight to charge, therefore it can only be charged during daytime, so you may want to bring a more conventional weapon whilst exploring caves or adventuring at night. Number 4. Fallout 3 Victory Rifle. Situated in an unmarked shack overlooking Rock Breaker's last gas is a unique sniper rifle that can be easily missed. Even if you know where to look, it's also not easy to get your hands on it as it's locked inside a very hard level locker, which requires a level 100 lockpicking skill, and there's no key for this locker. As with the Gobi campaign scout rifle, it is worth throwing down a save before attempting to lock here, because once it's broken, well, there's no way to get inside and get your hands on the weapon. If you manage to get your hands on the Victory Rifle, you are getting an incredibly useful weapon that will surely help you in your adventures through the Capital Wasteland. While it does the same amount of damage as the standard sniper rifle variant, it has increased durability as well as the ability to knock your enemies down with every critical hit. Unfortunately, this skill does come at a cost, as the critical multiplier for the Victory Rifle is only 3 compared to the standard variant's 5 times multiplier. Number 3. Fallout 4 Eternus. Fallout 4 was notorious for its endless Radiant quests, to the point where memes of Preston Garvey warning the player of another settlement in need of their help were a common sight across the internet. Not all Radiant quests were bad though, as in the Nuka World DLC, one such Radiant quest sees you face off against random enemies in an arena. If you're lucky, or more likely persistent, you'll face off against the Rogue Knight, who is a former Brotherhood of Steel member who carries a unique Gatling laser known as Eternus. Defeating the Rogue Knight in battle allows you to loot this from his body and use it for yourself, and this Gatling laser variant boasts the never-ending weapon perk, meaning that you won't be required to reload whilst using it. And on top of this, Eternus has unlimited ammo, allowing you to fry your enemies until your heart's content. The downside is that it's rather similar to the standard Gatling laser in Fallout 4, meaning that the damage output is rather underwhelming with only 24 damage. However, with such a high rate of fire and no need to reload, it still doesn't take too long to leave your enemies looking like Swiss cheese. Number 2. Fallout New Vegas, the Holy Hand Grenade. The Fallout series features many Easter eggs from pop culture, perhaps none more so than Fallout New Vegas, and one such Easter egg is in reference to Monty Python in the form of the devastating weapon, the Holy Hand Grenade, or the Holy Frag Grenade as it's called here, which is a reference to the similarly titled Holy Hand Grenade from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. This weapon is quite literally impossible to find unless you choose the Wild Wasteland trait at the very beginning of the game. Found in the basement of the church within Camp Searchlight, you'll only find 3 of these unique frag grenade variants, so use them wisely because there are no more available. The explosives appear almost identical to the standard frag grenade, however this time it's got a white cross painted on its side. And once thrown, the grenade explodes in a similar fashion to a nuclear weapon rather than a standard grenade, which is pretty devastating for anyone standing within its blast radius, including you, so step back. And number 1, Fallout 1, the Alien Blaster. A long-standing weapon in the Fallout universe, the Alien Blaster has featured in every Fallout game to date except for Fallout Tactics. And while this weapon is often not a simple find in any of the series titles, it's the most challenging to find in the original Fallout. The energy weapon is only found in a random encounter that occurs when the player is out exploring the world map. Giving your player character a higher luck skill should give you a higher chance of the random encounters occurring, but there's still no guarantee that the alien ship encounter will occur. But once you do manage to get the random encounter to appear, you'll be rewarded with a weapon that is quite literally out of this world. This extraterrestrial firearm boasts a high damage output of 30 to 90 to go along with a pretty high accuracy rating as well, so it's one worth finding for those who want to turn your enemies to, well, nothingness, just dust. However, the range does leave a lot to be desired, as it has the shortest range amongst all ranged weapons in the game, but still, when you get close, well, you're going to be the last one standing.
Fallout is a franchise that explores a fear that every human, I think we can agree, would like to not see realized. That is, all-out nuclear war and what the world could look like in its aftermath. While the thought can be terrifying enough for some, the Fallout franchise goes the extra step by putting in loads of hidden or not so hidden locations that are just plain terrifying. Whether secretly hiding an inhuman cult, all-out cannibalism, psychotic robots designed for childcare, or even just delving into the horrific experiments of Vault-Tec. These locations from throughout the Fallout franchise will certainly make players' skin crawl, and might make you wish you'd never visited. I'm Jess from What Culture, and here are 10 creepy Fallout locations you wish you never visited. Number 10. Matthews Animal Husbandry, Fallout New Vegas. Matthews Animal Husbandry is a small farm located near the NCR Camp Searchlight. At first, it seems that this location simply holds a bunch of wild animals, yet as the player discovers the scattered diary pages of a young boy who lived on the farm, they will uncover the sad tale of how the parents of the boy went into Camp Searchlight to buy some supplies. Sadly, they went right before an attack on the camp by Caesar's Legion, who irradiated everyone in it, turning almost everyone into ghouls. The boy's diary continues with the aftermath of this attack, describing how the boy waited several days for his parents to return, eventually heading to Camp Searchlight himself, only to find his parents had been turned into ghouls. The player can actually find the graves of the boy's parents nearby the ruined farmhouse. The rest of the boy's diary describes his descent into madness, eventually accusing the farm animals of plotting his demise. In an attempt to foil their imaginary plot, the boy burned the farmhouse down with himself still inside. The player can actually find the poor boy's remains inside the house, charred from the flames that consumed him. Each of these little details that players can find for themselves turn this ruined farmhouse into a location that some players will wish they'd never come across. Number 9. McClellan's Family Townhouse, Fallout 3. McClellan's family townhouse was once home to a stereotypical 1950s American family, with a mom, a dad, their young son, their Mr. Handy assistant robot, and the family dog, who was named Muffy. Once the player begins to wander around the house, they can find the family's dormant Mr. Handy, which can be reactivated and programmed to enact functions it did before the war's nuclear end. However, since of course the family is dead, the robot's actions just come off as super upsetting. The robot will read a poem to the bones of the young boy, whose skeleton is still laying in his bed. Mr. Handy will try to get the remains of Muffy, whose bones are laying down inside his doghouse, up for a walk, and will even go to the nearby grocery store if ordered. The fact that there's an empty baby crib inside the living room and a teddy bear being clutched by one of the adult skeletons in the master bedroom implies that the family may have been expecting a second child, and overall, Mr. Handy's actions just truly break your heart. Discovering the entire family was killed in their sleep shows just how quickly destruction was for some, but sadly not for all. Number 8. Gallows Home, Fallout 3. Sewers have always been a rather terrifying place for humanity to have built their homes over. Whether it's killer clowns or hidden aliens, sewers have been a place few wish to travel into, and Fallout 3 is no exception. If the player decides to make the long trek through the decaying and infested county sewer mainline, one of the many sewer systems the player can enter, they will be met with all sorts of terrifying discoveries. Not only is the sewer filled with angry raiders and ghouls, there's also plenty of traps you'll either need to avoid or disarm. At the center of these traps is a hidden area where the player will run into a ghoul wearing a birthday hat named Gallo. After being forced to kill Gallo, as he will always be hostile to the player, they can investigate Gallo's home, discovering a huge stockpile of neatly laid out junk. Two gnomes dressed up with birthday party hats are seated on some bar stools with some plates of mysterious meat laid out before them. With further inspection, the player can find a fridge filled with pieces of rotting corpses of other ghouls. All these discoveries indicate that Gallo became a sort of cannibal, using his vast network of traps to capture his prey. The discovery of cannibalism is quite common to find in Fallout, but Gallo's cannibalism is unique in that he seems to be killing and eating the ghouls out of necessity, though the planning and execution of his network of sewer traps shows just how intelligent he was while he hunted down his food. Yet another place some players may have wished they had not visited. Number 7. Vault 108. Fallout 3. Nearly every vault to be found in a Fallout game can be home to its own unique tale of horrifying experimentation. Vault-Tech's lies and the fate that befell not only those trying to find shelter from the nuclear apocalypse, but also the fate of the employees trying to survive in the vaults paint a horrid picture. Vault 108 is yet another tale of horrific experimentation. When the player first enters the vault, it seems to be completely empty, but then they're attacked by a man simply named Gary, who screams some form of Gary at them, then tries to attack them. After Gary dies, all seems fine. As the player explores the vault further, they'll come across more Garys, who all look exactly the same, except for bearing different numbers next to their names. The player eventually discovers that this vault was designed with a cloning lab and focused on using one man named Gary for their experiments. However, as the vault technicians kept cloning Gary, his clones became unresponsive to orders and grew more and more violent, until eventually the Garys rose up and killed every non-clone inside Vault 108. The Garys then took the vault as their own, not capable of anything besides basic survival, as the cloning process rendered them pretty darn unintelligent. The tale of Gary mixed with Vault 108's rusted interior filled with skeletons and spattered with blood all make this one vault people would actually prefer not to go into. Number 6. The Stables, Fallout 2. If you've played any of the Fallout games, new or old, then you may be aware of the massive drug use both NPCs and the player are subjected to. One of the most popular in-game drugs that have appeared throughout the franchise is the drug simply known as Jet. This drug is used primarily as an addictive drug from NPCs and as a booster inhaler for players, giving them all sorts of stat buffs and unusually triggering some sort of rage-induced yell in the later entries in the franchise. Players may use Jet for all kinds of purposes, not knowing exactly what it is or where it came from, but it can be found all over the American wasteland. That is, unless players visit the location simply labeled The Stables in Fallout 2. This location is a massive jet-producing factory owned by the Mordino family, a Fallout version of the mob. This converted stable and livery is revealed to be full of human slaves, who are used both for producing the drug and also as involuntary test subjects of the drug, to make it as cheap and safe as possible for its users. The worst part is the underground facility, used not only to test Jet, but also to be a paradise for the modifier of Jet, Myron, who abuses his slaves and prostitutes alike in order to satisfy his teenage impulses and overall god complex. So yeah, kind of a bummer, not for everyone. Number 5, the Necropolis, Fallout. Zombies are one of pop culture's most iconic horror monsters, and Fallout took the idea of classic brain-eating undead hordes and modified them into what we now know to be ghouls. These heavily irradiated humans are a constant grim reminder that radiation and nuclear warfare doesn't always mean people will die clean and painless deaths. Finding any location to be swarming with ghouls is rarely a fun experience even for hardened Fallout players. Introducing these terrifying foes early in the Fallout franchise, the developers succeeded immensely with the Ghoul City, aptly named the Necropolis. The City of the Walking Dead is a location the players have to go to in order to fulfill their main quest of finding the all-important water purifying chip to save their vault. This ruined version of California's Bakersfield seems eerily abandoned upon entry. With the addition of Fallout's terrifying soundtrack, the Necropolis is absolutely designed to make your skin crawl and get that fight or flight instinct kicking into overdrive. Then, almost out of nowhere, players are swarmed by hostile ghouls and forced to fight their way through the city and into the sewer system, where they're not much better off. The sewers of the Necropolis are as terrifying as any good episode of AMC's The Walking Dead. The player's forced to fight off a seemingly endless horde of ghouls and other monstrosities hiding in the system. Even the eventual discovery of friendly ghouls does little to stave off how creepy this place is and make some players wish they'd never dropped by. Number 4, Anna's House, Fallout 2. The Den is a true hive of scum and villainy inside Fallout 2's distorted version of California. There are pickpockets everywhere, gangs fight constantly for control, and overall, everyone is obviously miserable. However, as the player explores the Den and finds Anna's house, they stumble upon something more terrifying than the suffering of innocent people: an actual ghost haunting its own house. Not only does Fallout 2 come with this surprising spectre, there's a side quest associated with her for players to dig into. The player can first encounter the ghost by talking to the local storyteller, the Great Ananias, who tells the player a story all about a fair princess being poisoned by a magician. The ghost can be found in the room next to the Great Ananias late at night. Anna doesn't do much besides hovering in place, asking for her lost locket. This encounter triggers a side quest where the player can track down the raider who stole the ghost locket, return the locket, and then have to bury the bones of the poor woman who died, finally giving her peace. Not only is this a really interesting side quest that players can easily miss, but it adds something extra to the world of Fallout. You go in expecting a post-apocalypse, but a spirit is a whole other thing. Stumbling upon an actual ghost in all its pixelated horror will make some wish they'd never ventured so far in the first place. Number 3, the Cathedral, Fallout. Fallout's main villain organization is known as the Cult of the Cathedral, and it is in their central base where players can uncover some truly chilling finds. Of course, any cult in Fallout is going to be filled with some not so great guys, but this one takes the cake in maniacal organizations. The Cathedral is full of television screens broadcasting the same messages over and over: obey, truth, and unity. Everyone is robed and simply does the same things every day. The Cathedral is actually a new building built by the cult itself, which is why it's one of the most pristine buildings you can find in the Fallout franchise, outside of Vault 101. The windows are all tinted red, the stone is pitch black, but worst of all is the underground vault that the structure is built upon. The vault has become a horrific mashup of organic and inorganic parts, all part of the cult's leader, the Master. Very unpleasant. Number 2, Scott City, Fallout Tactics. The Fallout franchise has given players plenty of despicable warlords all looking to take over the wasteland for a variety of reasons. Some of the most diabolical leaders tend to be robotic in nature, such as New Vegas's overlord Mr. House or the Enclave's AI president John Henry Eden. But a classic Fallout overlord you may not know about was Fallout Tactics' introduction of the Calculator, a biological AI inside Vault Zero who was poorly constructed, turning the AI into Fallout's own version of Skynet, with the sole goal of wiping out all life in the wasteland. What little life there was left, that is. The players encounter some of the Calculator's most horrific plans when they go to Scott City, in the remains of Kansas. On the outside, the town of Scott City looks rather peaceful, a small settlement with a large factory area and some pesky robots defending the place. However, as the player explores this city, they begin to discover that the entire city has been turned into one giant prison for humans, ghouls, and super mutants. As the player explores more of the city, they begin to discover certain areas that are littered with piles of human corpses, each showing signs of torture and experimentation. Many have had their brains removed for study by the Calculator's robotic army. It is truly a horrific find and a really good motivation for you to absolutely want to stop the Calculator, even if it does make you wish you probably hadn't seen it. Number 1, Golgotha, Fallout 2. Golgotha is a location that can only be visited in a few unique ways. By asking an NPC named Jules, no not that Jules, in New Reno to tell them about it, by trying to disband an NPC companion Myron who will tell them about a stash hidden there, or by going full-on mob boss during a side quest to hunt down someone named Pretty Boy Lloyd, and making an example out of him for the Salvatores, a faction that can be found in New Reno. However players find their way to this spot, when they arrive, they're greeted by a massive graveyard surrounding the remains of a highway intersection, which is degraded to the point that it looks like a massive cross. This graveyard isn't like the ones we typically think of. Instead, it's a place filled with massive spikes, some still holding the impaled remains of the unfortunate souls who were executed by any of the mob families of New Reno. The bodies rot in the sun, and there are only 2 signs, one pointing to New Reno and the other one pointing straight down to hell. Not only is this place haunting to visit, but it's also one of the many grim reminders that humanity will do whatever they want to show their power and instill fear, even going so far as to reenact Vlad the Impaler's old tricks and leave bodies strewn all over California.
Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and when it comes to the wasteland, mutants, raiders, robots, Gary, and many, many more want you dead right bloody now. It's a dangerous place out there, so let's take a look at the critters that like to crunch our bones and creep us out. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 most deadly enemies in the Fallout franchise. Oh, and just for a little challenge, I'm not mentioning Cazadors, because I don't want to speak about them right now. I get war flashbacks every time I do. Number 10, Brahmin, Fallout 2. Okay, so hear me out on this one, because Brahmin, the two-headed cows that roam the various wastelands, well, they're not exactly the first thing you think of when it comes to deadly Fallout enemies, especially when these battered bovines aren't even classed as enemies in most cases, either acting as pack carriers or just farm animals. Yet, beneath their calm cow exterior is an absolute murderer that is so deadly that you'll likely never survive their onslaught. Now, to be clear, I'm actually referring to a single instance of cattle killers that you can find in Fallout 2 as a random encounter. Here, the Chosen One is beset by Brahmins who walk slowly towards them, and it's a rather odd sight for sure, but before you can even ask why the hell are all these Brahmin out here alone, boom! You're dead. What? Well, it turns out that these are deadly exploding Brahmin that will kill you in one hit if they so much as touch you. Truly, these are Brahmin that have some real beef with the player. Number 9. Frank Horrigan, Fallout 2. If there is one thing that most Fallout players would never, ever want to experience, it's a super mutant with access to power armor. And thankfully, while that isn't actually the case as it stands in the Fallout universe, with Fallout 2's final boss Frank Horrigan, this large lad certainly came bloody close. Acting as the final challenge to the Chosen One, Black Isle Studios made sure to give Frank Horrigan all they could to make him an utter ball ache to battle. From simple things like maxing out all of his stats mean that he is quite literally the perfect warrior, to having him get the bloody jump on you and unleashing a few rounds of his unique plasma gun, it was a tough ride, but these pale in comparison to the goddamn robot turrets that he has next to him. Seriously, if you've not found a way to either deactivate these turrets or turn them against Frank, you're as good as dead. In fact, it's very much advised that you do this and bring EC Company with you and have a full party of other members, because you're going to need each and every single shred of help you can if you're going to survive this onslaught. Good luck. Number 8. Mythic Deathclaw, Fallout 4. So everybody knows about Deathclaws, right? They're big, they're scary, and for some reason in Fallout Tactics Brotherhood of Steel, they're hairy, but then again, Brotherhood of Steel gets a lot of Fallout lore wrong. However, one thing that is constant throughout all iterations is that these Jackson chameleons can absolutely batter you like your Scottish cuisine. It all revolves around their ability to bypass armor with their attacks, meaning that no matter how many layers of tinfoil you wrap yourself in, Deathclaws are like the iceberg to your Titanic. Adding to the terror is the myriad of Deathclaw variants that you can come across, each more terrifying than the last. Named Deathclaws, Alpha Deathclaws, Albino, Glowing, even Quantum Deathclaws, and yet all of them pale in comparison to the one and only Mythic Deathclaw. This absolute unit rocks the highest damage resistance of all Deathclaws, hits like a rocket-powered bus, and has incredible perception, meaning that if you've spotted them, then they most definitely have spotted you. However, the thing that makes these beasts truly deadly is that while they're meant to start spawning when the player reaches level 91, they can actually start spawning randomly from level 75 onwards. And when you consider that the battle is absolutely rough for late game players as is, this is just plain embarrassing when you're 15 levels lower. Number 7. Wanamingos, Fallout 2. The Wanamingo is a truly strange beast indeed, and when you consider the cavalcade of creepy critters in the Fallout universe, that is a rather large boast. It's actually one that's earned though by looking at its composition, because it's truly hard to make out just what the hell this thing even is. Wielding long tentacle-like arms, a long smooth head and rows of razor-sharp teeth, the Wanamingos are often referred to as aliens by the locals, and it's easy to see why. It may also be why the creature is named Wanamingo, as this settlement in Minnesota cannot trace its name origin in any history book. Literally nobody can explain where the name came from, and it's likely that nobody could explain what the Wanamingo in Fallout was originally mutated from. To be honest with you though, you'll not likely be thinking about any of these quaint naming conventions for long when fighting these beasts, because they can easily overwhelm the player with large numbers and even larger melee damage output. The fact that they pop up so early on in the game presents something of a roadblock to new players, and you'll likely die over and over thanks to the random combat in this game. Trust me, it's gonna happen a lot. Number 6. Wendigo Colossus, Fallout 76. When you consider the irradiated dump that was Fallout 76's launch, then is it any wonder that strange and mutated horrors have been cropping up in the servers over the past few years? And no, I'm not talking about the oddballs that chose to pay for Fallout first. I'm speaking, of course, about the Mothman, the Scorchbeast Queen, and thanks to the Wastelanders update, the Wendigo Colossus. This absolute horror possesses 3 heads, each more ugly than the last, and each spitting out some rather disgusting damage in the form of corrosive and poison goop, as well as having an effect that can make you panic and run away. I hope you weren't attached to that armor because this is going to chew right through it with that corrosive damage. Plus, the poisonous sludge pools in the area that you're fighting in mean that you can accidentally cause further damage to yourself as you try to dodge through it. And you'll need to be quick on your toes as this boss is relentless, swiping and spitting at you constantly. If that wasn't bad enough, the Wendigo Colossus also spawns with some regular Wendigo as backup, meaning that you'll likely be overwhelmed as soon as the fight begins. If you're with a party of pals, then this can even the odds somewhat, but if not, well, be prepared to watch your Vault Dweller run and cower before having their can opened by these ugly bastards again and again. Number 5. Super Mutant Overlord, Fallout 3. Now, while you might be raising an eyebrow at seeing the Super Mutant Overlord on this list over, say, a Super Mutant Behemoth, there are actually a few key factors that make this less visually intimidating enemy surprisingly much more deadly than its oafish big brother. For a start, the Super Mutant Overlord can spawn in with weapons that are purpose-built to make your life a living nightmare. In fact, so deadly are the laser Gatling gun or tri-laser that it can appear with that the aforementioned living nightmare is actually destined to be a short one, especially when the bastard will also throw frag grenades at you. Secondly, while taking on a single super mutant is a tough but fairly straightforward affair, the Super Mutant Overlord never spawns alone, usually dropping in with the support of up to 4 other big green bastards. This, coupled with the Overlord's high health, ability to stay at the back of the fight and rinse you with deadly laser fire, and the fact that he's no slouch in close combat either, means that encountering one will bring out even experienced players in a cold sweat. Number 4. Legendary Bloatfly, Fallout New Vegas. If you thought that Cazadors were the only embodiment of winged death in Fallout New Vegas, then think again, my friend, as the comically overpowered legendary Bloatfly will turn you into a ragdoll corpse before you can even reach for that pig iron on your hip. In what must have been one of the Obsidian developers having the biggest laugh ever, the legendary Bloatfly is an utter godforsaken nightmare to take down, and can be found, if you do want to take it on, in the Old World Blues DLC hanging out in the mysterious cave. This glowing monstrosity overshadows its brethren in both size and damage output, spewing goop from its abdomen that hits for 300 damage a pop and does so at an alarming rate, meaning that it can actually outclass an Alpha Deathclaw in terms of raw stopping power. Plus, I really hope that you aren't a melee build right now, because this beast, for some reason, actually flies up higher than regular bloatflies, meaning that it can sometimes be actually impossible to hit the damn thing. Not that you'll have too long to complain about, because this foe will fell you in mere moments. Number 3. Legate Lanius. While the Legion and its depraved followers might all be bending the knee and hailing Kaisar long into the night, every true Wastelander worth his irradiated salt knows that Edward Sallow is just a voice that breathes life into the might of his military force, and is hardly a challenging opponent in a one-on-one battle. No, if you're looking for the muscle that drives the Legion, then you're going to need to speak to Legate Lanius, as the man is called the Monster from the East for a bloody good reason. This man is a literal mountain, standing at 6'11" in-game and hits harder than the Great Bloody Depression. But more than that, he's actually pretty bloody smart. The battle has several scripted sections which will mix things up from the usual "I'm just going to turn you into base elements with my bare hands" method, with him dosing on healing powder, falling back and turning off hostility so that your allies don't attack him, then restoring his limb condition to 100%, and also he can't be disarmed by the player attacking his arm. This makes for easily the most challenging battle in New Vegas and reflects the tactical superiority of the man who helped bring the Legion so many key victories. Number 2. Albino Rad Scorpions, Fallout 3. While the disgusting models of the Bloatfly and the Centaur in Fallout 3 may cause your stomach to lurch, there's an enemy out in the wasteland that is somehow even more sickening, at least when it comes to how much it can completely obliterate your health. The Albino Rad Scorpion is an enemy that is purpose-built to ruin your day, possessing a whopping health pool of between 1,500 to 2,000 hit points, and it's able to do twice as much damage as a super mutant behemoth. You know, those massive creatures that will turn you into a tent peg with one hit. Hitting with both its claw and then its stinger for 100 damage apiece, this will rinse your health quickly, as will the poison damage the stinger deals, which, lest we not forget, also bypasses your armor completely. Oh, and despite the fact that albino people usually try to limit sun exposure wherever possible, the Albino Rad Scorpion has a built-in healing factor that kicks in when exposed to sunlight, meaning that as you're desperately trying to dodge its ferocious attacks, your spirit is also taking a kicking because you'll be watching its health bar fill back up again. Oh, and also, they spawn in pairs. Jesus Christ, give me a break. So my advice when you see this beast, run, and pray that you're fast enough. And number 1, Gojira, Fallout New Vegas. So as I mentioned in a prior entry, Deathclaws are not anything to sniff at. In fact, so powerful are these leathery lizards that even their shadow might cause you to wet your vault suit. However, there is actually another lizard in the Fallout series that casts a shadow so large that it might actually appear that the sun itself has become eclipsed. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Gojira. Now, don't feel too bad if you haven't come across this towering titan of terror, because technically the only way you can find him in Fallout New Vegas is through digging through the cut content files of the game. In fact, unless you want to die very quickly and very painfully, I'd advise ever against even doing this, as this mighty monolithic beast rocks a huge 8,000 points of health and can do enough damage to easily one-shot even the most high level of players, doing around 3.2 thousand points of fire damage with its breath attack per second. This beast is clearly meant to be a riff on the almighty kaiju of the ages Godzilla, and seems to be Obsidian's jokey way of punishing the player for killing all of those fire geckos at the beginning of the game. Thankfully for us though, the devs must have realised how utterly demoralising it would have been to die to this beast over and over and cut it from the final game. Whew, bullet dodged, eh?
Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan, and welcome to the Fallout Mastermind Quiz. Mr. Dan Durkin himself has assembled a grueling set of questions to put our favourite presenters through their paces on all kinds of Fallout trivia and knowledge. They'll be having 10 questions per round, then we're going to beef it up to 15. There might be tiebreakers as well, but let's get started. Welcoming Mr. Josh Brown. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm a bit scared, Ewan, to be honest. I think I put all of my stats in agility before this quiz, so it's not going to help as much, is it? Should have put them all in intelligence. What was I thinking?
Well, you know, I'm not going to say that's going to bode poorly for you, but let's see how we get on anyway. So, I've got the stick of power. It's really good. This is how professional we're being right now. We've got this stick. It makes me better than everyone else. Right, here we go. What is the name of the town with the undetonated bomb in the middle?
Well, we're after a flying start, aren't we? Wait, in Fallout 3, right?
Yes.
Yes? It is Megaton.
That is correct.
Thank you. The lack of a game stressed me out, but then I was like, wait, no, it's of course Megaton.
I'm the relayer of the questions here. Right, here we go. Number 2. What is the title of the player character in Fallout 4?
I think it is the Sole Survivor?
Correct. There we go. Josh, you were doubting yourself beforehand. You're going really well here. Right, number 3. What city is Vault 101 located in?
I reckon it's gotta be just Washington, DC, right?
Correct! Hey, this is great. Maybe the tactic of like downplaying yourself. This is actually working to intimidate all of the opponents that are living in the darkness right now.
Yeah, maybe I'm hustling them all.
All right, number 4. What is the name of the Fallout mobile game released in 2015?
It's Fallout Shelter. Yeah.
Correct! Wow, 4 for 4 at the minute. Josh, this is great.
It's all downhill from here.
Number 5. Father is the director of which faction in Fallout 4?
Hello, mother. Hello, father. Here I am at Camp Instituta.
Correct! Hey, put that in. That's some quality riffing right there. Right.
Off the top of my head, not scripted.
Number 6. In Fallout New Vegas, which perk allows you to see the fedora-wearing skeleton in a fridge?
In New Vegas.
In New Vegas, a fedora-wearing skeleton. He's miladying from behind the confines of a lead-lined fridge.
Every time I play New Vegas, I play it on hardcore mode, and I choose this perk. But I've completely forgotten what the perk's called. I think it's like Wild West sounds too obvious. It's like Wild Wasteland.
Yes! There we go. Wow. God, blitz in the competition. Right.
I don't think I get that one.
Number 7. At which famous monument does the final battle of Fallout New Vegas take place?
Like, the place itself is
A landmark, you could also
landmark, okay. Oh, okay. I think I may know. It is, what's it called? It's a dam? But what the hell's the dam called? That damn thing. I think it's a dam. Hoover Dam?
Yes! There we go. Named after President Herbert Hoover.
Yep. And his
inventor of the Hoover.
Ian Dam.
Good, yeah. Number 8. In which vault did the women outnumber the men by 1,000 to 1?
Just gonna have to guess a number. Which game is that in? Not that it's going to help, I'm just interested. Dan?
It's a webcomic.
It's a webcomic, he
Is
says.
it canon, Dan?
It's canon.
It's canon. It's canon. We have to- So, Josh, you should know this.
I should know this. It's, I can't remember what the question was. Vault 69.
Oh my god!
No way!
The nicest answer of all, really. Oh my god.
Is that actually right? Is that actually right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm not even indulging you right now. That is the correct thing. What is the webcomics called,
Yeah.
Dan? Is it just
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Fallout sexy joke time?
Amazing. Yeah, I'd read it.
Number 9. Mini nukes are the ammunition type for what weapon in the Fallout series?
Fat man.
Correct.
I still don't know who's it makes.
Yeah,
but-
yeah, it farts.
Could be.
Like Leo the Fart in Last Action Hero. Number 10. What is the surname of Conrad, the mercenary and secondary antagonist of Fallout 4?
My mind wants to say... I don't think this is right. I don't know where I've heard this name from, though. It just sounds like a thing that's been in something. Is it... Conrad Werner.
Is incorrect. It's
What is that?
actually
Mass Effect.
Oh, wrong franchise.
Conrad Kellogg. It's after the cornflakes, mate.
Man, I eat them every morning as well.
Do you? I didn't think that would be your cereal of choice. I thought you'd be like a Cocoa Pops man.
Crunchy nut.
Crunchy nut.
Yeah.
Ah,
I think that's Kellogg, right?
That is Kellogg.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the cornflakes. They're the most boring one, but you know. Hey, thank you very much, Josh. You did very well there. 9 out of 10 questions. That puts you off in a very, very good start. You're setting the world on fire.
Oh, very nice. And hilariously, I bottle capped it at the end.
Hello, Scott. How are you feeling about Fallout?
Hello, I remember when Fallout was good, and that was like 16 years ago.
Bring in the mood. Fallout's still good.
They know what I'm talking
You can
about.
bask in the glow.
Look, if I said I like Fallout 4, there'd be half the audience going, it was a
That
bit
is
naff,
true, actually.
including me.
You know.
And then Fallout 76 was
Yeah,
also a
Fallout
bit
4 whole voice
bit
protagonist thing was pretty bad,
terrible.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Fallout 3, even New Vegas, though.
Hey, New Vegas. That's one.
So I'm told.
Yeah.
I haven't played it.
Are you ready now?
Yeah.
For your first question.
Yes.
Right, here we go. What is the name of the Mr. Handy robot who greets you in Fallout 4?
Is he not called Mr. Handy?
No, it's the model
He's
of the robot.
called Mr. Tibbs.
They call me Mr. Tibbs. Actually, it's Codsworth, mate.
Oh,
Coddington Worth.
it's not the COD that I'm into.
That's a fish and chip joke.
Yes, like
Good.
also Call of Duty, but either or.
Oh, that's also, yeah, it could work.
Multiple avenues.
Number 2. What does the S in special, the acronym there, stand for?
Scott.
You know, Scott could work because I think it does imply strength, which was the answer we're looking for.
Good,
Because you didn't
good.
say strength, I can't
Nah.
give you the point.
Nah.
So. I'm sorry there, Scott.
It's okay. I'm just trying to get one. Just want to get one.
Finish the quote.
Okay.
Finish it. War never what?
Changes.
Hey.
I almost said ends. It's changes.
Damn, could you imagine if you got that one wrong?
I know.
You'd have to leave in shame.
Covered this for so long.
Number 4. Which vault is the main character of the Fallout TV show Lucy from?
I have no idea. Vault 41.
Oh, you're really close, actually. It's Vault 33.
Well, we on my chips.
Is actually
Do it now. Do it now.
Has someone done that to your chips
Yeah,
before?
yeah.
Damn.
Bad vault.
Number 5. What is the name of the device featured on the playable character's wrist? Come on.
I'm gonna go with the Pip Boy.
I think we can say that. Yeah, we can say that. Pip-Boy 3000.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, but it's,
I'm an
that's
OG. It's like one of the old ones. Just a Pip Boy.
Number 6. Radioactive strontium-90 is used to make which in-game beverage glow blue? Abba-dee-abba-die.
I only know Eiffel 65. I only know. I only really know like one object in Fallout. I'm probably gonna say it wrong. Radaway.
No, that's incorrect.
Take me away.
The answer is Nuka-Cola Quantum.
Good, great.
Like the Pepsi Max of the Fallout universe. I
Fair.
imagine it's just as addictive and terrible for my health.
And yet we're drinking it
We are.
every day.
Number 7. Devil is the name of an achievement featured in Fallout 3, which the player is awarded for reaching what level with bad karma?
I don't know any of these.
Gotta go all
What
the way
level?
Back. 2008, mate. You gotta go all the way back.
What level?
Yeah, what level?
What level?
You know, levels have numbers. You start at 1 typically and then
Oh, here he is.
go up from there.
Mastermind.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I do have the power.
Numbers.
Yeah.
12.
Incorrect. The answer is 30. Oh, he hates 30 now.
He loves a thing.
Number 8. What is the name of the DJ featured on Galaxy News Radio in the Capital Wasteland?
You can tell the last time I cared about Fallout was 2008. It's a long time, and even then I can't pull from that year to remember this at all.
Just give me your best freaky, wasteland name.
Isn't there a guy called, Mad Dog? Your face did a thing, am I close? Mad Cat. I think it's Mad Dog.
It's 3 dogs.
Actually, no, Mad Dog's from Time Crisis. Mad Dog.
Bow wow.
This is 3 dogs.
Just here to take
Bow
part. I don't
wow.
even know.
All right.
It's been a while.
Number 9. Caesar is the leader of which faction in Fallout New Vegas?
Oh, aren't they Caesar's Legion?
Correct.
Get in.
There you go.
2 points.
Number 10. What is the name of the dog companion featured in Fallout 4?
I'm going to shoot with dog meat.
Correct.
Yes.
Hey.
Flying.
Trethe.
Thank you.
Points right now. Well, you got 3.
Thank
out of
you.
10, Scott. 4. Was it 4? I can't count.
Tech
Scott,
support.
You got 4 points in that round. How do you feel?
Better than I did when I came in. I've got more than one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There we go. That's
best-
the spirit.
The best Fallout number for half the audience. Fallout 4. Bye.
So that was Scott. He got 4 points. But now up, we have Joe Johnston, who does not look different in any way whatsoever to his normal appearance.
I've just scavenged myself a little +1 intelligence hat and a +1 perception set of glasses, which will hopefully allow me to see the answers reflected in your glasses.
Oh, damn.
With these being 3D
Wait,
glasses.
Is that actually happening? Can people see the
No, absolutely not.
there's-
Also, these are 3D glasses and they give me a headache. So
Oh,
I'm taking
okay.
off. And this hat makes me look stupid.
Oh, I mean, the hat did look like it had some suspicious stains on it, so...
Oh, cheers for that.
Yeah, probably good to have the stain-ridden hat off. But Joe, garments aside, how are you feeling about Fallout? Are you feeling confident?
It's not very good. Now, well, we'll see.
No confidence here.
I know, well, seeing Josh come on and go, I don't feel very good about this, and then getting, it wasn't quite a perfect.
There's a 9.
But maybe if I say, I'm not feeling very good, maybe I'll feel very good by the end of the round.
Don't rub it in, Joe. Not quite perfect.
No, I'm saying, no, just downplay it.
You ready for your first question, Joe?
I guess so.
Number 1. What is used as currency in the Fallout series?
Bottle caps.
Correct.
Nuka-Cola bottle caps.
Coca-Cola bottle caps. Number 2. Which song was featured in the first trailer for Fallout 76?
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you what, I nearly interrupted you with the wrong answer there before you said 76 to make myself sound clever. But I think it was actually, was it Country Roads?
I'll accept that. Take me home, country.
Take me home,
roads.
country.
Yeah,
roads.
that's good. That's
Hey.
good. Number 3. In the Oasis quest in Fallout 3, you meet a character named Harold. He has mutated into what kind of object?
A tree
That
with
is
a
awesome.
horrifying face.
Correct. Yeah, he wants to die.
He really does want to
yeah,
die.
not a good fate to have in the apocalypse, really.
Great quest, though.
Number 4. Which famous actor voiced Benny in Fallout New Vegas?
Benny. Now, I've not played Fallout New Vegas.
What? What?
By the time I came to play it, the engine was so old that I just felt a bit like, I can't do it. But
Judging.
I know one actor who was in Fallout New Vegas, so I'm gonna guess that Benny is the character voiced by Matthew Perry,
That is-
R.I.P.
Yeah, that is correct. The late, great Matthew Perry. Number 5. The Clean Water Project in Fallout 3 is named what?
I know the name of the object that they use, but it's not that, is it? Oh, is it Project Purity?
That is correct, Joe. Hey, it's doing pretty good right now. Number 6. Diamond City is built within an arena for which sport?
Baseball.
That is also correct. Hey, Joe and Josh are channeling the negativity of feeling anxious about...
right.
Doing great. Number 7. Which vault features the many clones of Gary in Fallout 3?
Surely this has got to be a gag number as well. Like, Josh got 69, but Gary. Vault Gary.
Well, Gary. Is that your answer?
No, it's I'm not going to get this. I don't think there's any way that I can game this.
Just give me your favourite number.
My favourite number?
I'm not going to influence you in any way, actually. Ignore what I just said.
Okay. Vault 99.
Oh, wait, again, you were within 7 digits of getting that. It's Vault 108.
Oh,
There we go, right. Number 8. What is the name of the protagonist's son in Fallout 4?
Sean.
Correct.
Sean!
Hated that kid.
Which one? Sean from Fallout or Sean from Heavy Rain?
Oh my god, what is with that? A deal with the 2 annoying children in video games. Okay, right. Number 9. What are the mascots of Nuka World?
What are the mascots?
What are their names?
Their names. Surly.
That is the Duff Beer Garden mascot. God damn it, Joe. It's
do.
it's Bottle and Cappy.
Oh.
Okay, number 10, this is your final question. What is the alias of the main antagonist and final boss of Fallout 1, Richard Moreau?
Oh, the master.
Correct! Hey! There we go.
Thank you.
Joe, how many points does that leave Joe with? 8 out of 10. Fantastic, Joe. That means you go through to the next round. How are you feeling?
All right, but now I'm up against Josh. But this is a challenge to step up to.
The 2 J's.
Get my awful gear back on.
Yep, it's got the stain on it.
Ah!
Can you see it? Oh, well, thank you very much, Joe. We'll see you very soon.
Thank you.
Seeing us out, Josh got the most points in round numero uno. He gets to vote on who goes first in the next round, and he has chosen himself. This is a confident reversal after all that downplaying attitude beforehand. So, Josh, come on down. So this is the next round. I hope you're looking forward and feeling prepared because they get a little bit more tricky as we go forward now. Dan Durkin is a devious man.
Yeah, he is.
Dan Devious Durkin, we all like to call him on the reg. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Question number 1. Which chem boosts the user's radiation resistance?
Oh man, because someone said it in the last round, all I've got in my head is Radaway, which isn't my correct answer. Because that gets rid of the radiation. What was the exact thing? Boost your resistance.
Boosts the user's radiation resistance.
Resistance. Oh man. Man, all I can think of is like Psycho, and it's not Psycho. I'm gonna have to go Radaway, but I know it's not.
Yeah, incorrect. It's Rad X.
Oh, of course it is. Oh, of course it is.
Josh. Yeah, it's okay. It's only question number 1.
It is.
All right. Number 2. What does FEV stand for?
This is the... I might get one of these words wrong. I think it's the Forced Evolutionary Virus.
Correct, Amundo. Hey, first point on the board. Number 3. What color is Craig Boone's hat?
I think it's like a little maroon beret, I think. Like a red maroon beret.
You did say red.
Yeah.
I think we can. Yeah, I think we can get that. Yeah.
Red? That's just a shade of red.
He's the New Vegas guy you chill with, isn't he?
Yeah. You can meet him up the top of a dinosaur.
Hey.
New Vegas is the best game ever.
It is. It's fantastic. Right. Number 4. What is Mr. House's first name? I completely forgot about this.
I thought he had a first name. I thought he was like Prince, just House. No. I hate Mr. House as well. I kill him every time.
Yeah.
Stupid mustachioed freak.
I do it because I don't own a
Mr.
house and I
House.
feel envious.
Oh, god damn it, man. How many times have I played this game? He's just Mr. House in the lucky 38.
Funniest answer, I'm sorry. I'm looking forward to saying this out aloud if you don't get it.
I'm not gonna get it. I want to go Richard House.
Oh,
Dick House.
It's so close. It's Robert House.
Oh, man.
Robert House.
Robert House.
Just sounds like a fake name that we would say.
It really does.
You know,
like Robin House. you know?
Maybe Dan made it up. Number 5. Who is the main character of the Fallout in-universe fictional comic book, The Barbarian?
How come I'm the only person who's got comic-related questions so far? Oh man, this could be anyone. Is it... What's the guy... Oh man, nah. I'm thinking, my brain wants to say, but I can't remember his name. The guy in Fallout 4 with the trench coat and like the street sweeper thing. But I don't know his name, so I'm gonna go... I don't know, man. The Barbarians?
The Barbarian. We might burying it up.
Yeah. New York City. I'm going to go, I can't remember his name either. The leader of the Khans, which is not the answer. but I'm gonna go with it.
Nah, it is Grognak the Barbarian.
That guy sucks, man. That guy sucks.
Number 6. Who developed Fallout New Vegas?
Obsidian Entertainment.
Correct. Number 7. What color is featured in the name of the rocket truck stop in Fallout 4?
Red Rocket.
Correct. Red Rocket. Number 8. Who voices the male protagonist in Fallout 4?
Someone who's kicking about all the time, like a Nolan North or a Troy. I'm gonna go Troy Baker.
Incorrect. This is the one video game character that Troy Baker has not voiced recently. It's Brian T. Delaney.
I would never have got that.
Number 9. What is the name of the synth detective who lives in Diamond City?
That is literally the guy I was. No, not the guy I was talking about. The synth detective is called something Valentine. Nick Valentine.
There we go. Little Nicky Valentine. That's great. Number 10. What is the name of the settlement in Fallout 3 which is ran entirely by children under the age of 16?
I'm gonna go. It's not. This is again flexing other knowledge that isn't right. Shady Sands is in Fallout 1, and I don't know if they use the name again, so I'm gonna go Shady Sands again, even though I don't think it's right.
Incorrect. It is Little Lamplight.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Number 11. What is the name of the premium currency present in Fallout 76?
Oh man, I've never interacted with it. It'll be Vault-Tec something, right?
Josh
Maybe?
Brown, the premium currency king, never
I know.
interacted with this. I don't believe that for a second.
If it was COD points or Shinra coins, maybe I would have interacted with it. God damn.
This is a trademark Dan V-Bucks Sturkin question.
The V in V-Bucks, sorry, stands for Vault-Tec. So I'm going to say Vault-Tec caps. Vault-Tec caps.
It's atoms. 6 of them.
Get a
That's it.
life, little Bethesda.
I can't say atoms without thinking of that Mr. Burns flashback bit. He's got the pocket out. 6 of them. I hope that cushions the blow of being wrong.
It does, thank
slightly.
you. Yeah,
Okay. Number 12. The first stage of the Quick Hands perk in Fallout 4 has what effect?
It's got to be, right, weapon swapping, or it's got to be weapon reloading. And I'm going to say, do I need like a percentage or anything?
No, just what effect does it have?
What effect? Faster reloading.
Correct. Hey. Number 13. What is the name of the unique sawed-off shotgun featured in Fallout 3?
It's got to be Road Warrior related. Oh, man.
I feel for you right now.
I feel beyond Thunderdome.
I can see the anguish.
The Road Warrior, right, was what I always called my character in Fallout 3. So that's what I'm
Getting.
thinking. I would think
Oh,
a Mad Max head back in the day.
oh man, little like 13-year-old Josh on the Mad Max hype.
Literally,
Oh.
I don't even know if this is going to be a Mad Max related thing, but it has to be, surely. No idea. Man.
Even if you get it wrong, we've got lots of great noises for the Josh Brown sound
It's
bank
true.
right
It's
now.
true. When I'm gone, just play that over my grave, you know, just constantly. I'm going to go. It's not a super shotty. It's not.
Yeah, come on.
I'm going to go super shotty.
It's incorrect. It's the kneecapper.
There we go.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not on the table if you get one of these wrong, so don't have to worry
thank
about
God.
your precious knees.
Thank God.
Number 14. How many steel ingots are required for the mill worker achievement in Fallout 3? It's a bit close. A bit close. Witness intimidation isn't allowed, by the way.
Steel ingots.
Yeah.
In Fallout 3.
Which might be why Dan put me up here, to be honest.
I don't remember steel ingots. I don't know, collecting steel ingots in Fallout 3.
Just think of steel ingots and think of Skyrim, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Melting down, making Daedric daggers and whatnot.
The Iron Dagger trick was great.
Yeah, it was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll never have that much time to dedicate myself to an RPG ever again. How many ingots? What was the achievement called?
For the mill worker achievement in Fallout 3, how many steel ingots are required for the mill worker achievement?
120.
Oh, everyone's getting so close in these ballpark figures. It's 100.
I was going to go with that as well first.
Nice
and I
round
thought,
number.
Oh,
all right.
bloody hell.
Last question, Josh. What is the in-game name of the green radiation ghouls present in Fallout 4?
I remember a boss being called, like, I think, the glowing one or something. Come on. I'm gonna kick myself on this one as well. Killed so many of them. I'm gonna go glowing ghouls.
Yeah, he said it. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's the glowing one.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna give you that because you already kind of came to it, and then you had glowing ghouls. I think
Yes.
There
that's
was some questions earlier where
Yeah.
you said it and you gave him it. So
yeah, that's all good.
I'll
I think
take
we're
it, thank you.
Josh, how many points did that leave Josh with?
7.
7. Lucky number 7. Josh Brown, well done. How are you feeling?
I think it's okay. I haven't disgraced myself or my family name, but I don't think it's enough to beat Joe.
Okay, well, again, this tactic has proven fortuitous until now, so we'll see how you get on. But thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you for having me.
Joe, how are you feeling after that display from Josh then?
Okay, could go either way, you know, but I think I'm ready. I've got uranium fever.
Okay, so we're upgrading from discouraged to quietly optimistic now.
I was quite pleased with how I did last time, so maybe, just maybe,
Just maybe.
just maybe.
Josh, you're going to have to up your heckling game for this now just to intimidate him.
I'm gonna rattle it.
All right, here we go, Joe. You ready for your first question?
Yes.
Okay, number 1. Which DLC fixed the ending to Fallout 3?
Oh,
A little rhyme in that question for you there.
Broken Steel.
Correct! Which is nearly close to being Broken Arrow, which is a really good movie starring John Travolta and Christian Slater. Anyway, number 2. What does the E in GECK, G-E-C-K, stand for?
This was the object I was thinking about before, the GECK, it's the water thing. So, it's to do with purifying the water. I'm going to say environmental.
No, Joe, it's Eden. I'm very sorry.
Oh, Garden of Eden creation kit! Oh, no.
Of course! All right, number 3. Rivet City is located inside what sort of military vessel? That's Rivet City, not Ribbit, because I know that I'm having a hard
Rivet
time
City.
talking today. So Rivet City is located inside what sort of military vessel?
It's a gigantic ship of some kind. Does it need to be a...
I need something more specific than that.
Ah. A destroyer.
Incorrect. It's an aircraft carrier. The most important element of a country's navy, Joe. God damn it. Number 4. What month in 2015 was Fallout 4 released? It's 9 years ago now.
What month was it released? Ooh.
9 years ago.
Terrifying.
9 years ago.
Was it November?
Correct. Hey.
I don't know why I know that.
Look at you. Look at us. Number 5. This is great. Sorry. The ant agonizer. Sorry, this makes me think of the Ant Bully. Remember that movie, The Ant Bully? Right. Number 5. The Ant Agonizer and the Mechanist feature in the quest, the Something Gambit. Finish the title of the quest. The quest is called the blank Gambit.
The Ant Agonizer and the Mechanist.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember doing that quest.
The
but I
Ant
don't
Agonizer. I love that, to be honest.
The Ant Agonizer. Do ants have queens? They do, don't they?
Are you planning something? Are you starting a colony?
The Queen Ant's Gambit.
Incorrect.
Queen's Gambit.
No, that's a show, Joe. The answer is the Superhuman
Oh,
Gambit.
no, I was never going to get that.
Oh, well, anyway, number 6. Who wrote the Wasteland Survival Guide?
Moira Brown.
Correct.
Hey, I'm Moira Brown.
Hey, well done. Number 7. The Railroad HQ is located in the crypt of what type of building?
Oh, a church.
Correct. Hey.
Railroad, best faction.
Number 8. What is the name of the lone wanderer's mother?
I have absolutely no idea, so I'm going to say Sally.
No, it's Catherine.
Oh, Catherine.
Number 9. Who voices the female protagonist in Fallout 4?
Okay. Now, do I do a Josh and think of a name that is familiar? Or do I just throw any name at the wall?
The world is your oyster.
I mean, it's not. I don't think it is one of the sort of well-known Jennifer Hales or whoever of the world.
You're looking for the answers in my eyes, Joe, and there's nothing here but blank steeliness.
If I put those glasses back on, I might be able to see the reflection.
Can't break me.
Jennifer Hale.
Incorrect. Courtney Taylor.
Courtney Taylor? Wait. No, I was thinking of Courtney Draper. Never mind. Courtney
Taylor? I have no idea who that is.
No. Courtney Draper was, I think, Elizabeth in Bioshock Infinite. So, yes, anyway, I got my wires crossed.
It's not a Bioshock quiz, unfortunately.
It's not a Bioshock quiz, you're right.
Number 10. In Fallout 3, what caliber of ammo does the standard pistol take?
10mm.
That is correct. Number 11. Which in-universe company develops the mac and cheese food item?
Blamco.
That is also correct. Joe, this is the most important one. You can bring yourself level with Josh here. Okay, You ready? Number 12. What was the title of the 5th and final DLC expansion that took you out of this world for Fallout 3?
Mothership Zeta?
That is correct.
Oh!
Hey. Josh, where are
Bitch, man.
Oh, here we go. Joe, this is to win it. Number 13. Who published Fallout 1?
Who published Fallout 1?
Published Fallout 1.
Interplay Entertainment. Interplay Games. Interplay Productions.
Oh, hey.
Come on. Surely Interplay is a...
No?
No.
What?
Okay, let's keep it. Okay.
Okay.
The powers above me have decided that it's more fun to deny Joe his satisfaction right now, so we're gonna keep going.
If I lose after this, right?
The cosmic forces that be.
yeah,
There's no one else
throw
in
it
this
down.
room.
Throw it
Number
down.
14. Paladin Danz is a commanding officer of which in-game faction?
Oh, those tossers. It's the Brotherhood of Steel.
That's correct. Hey, Joe. Joe wins. Hey.
Thank you.
How are you feeling, Joe?
Very good.
Like a winner?
Like a winner, yes.
Yeah.
The uranium fever was all worth it in the end.
I think you can put. Where's the hat gone? Where's your victory?
Oh, where's my victory hat? Must have helped me. Here it comes.
Go on, throw it.
Uranium fever has done and got me down. Oh, here he comes.
This is the loser's arrangement.
Hey.
Hey.
Didn't need him after all. Hey.
Need like a slow zoom on you right now.
Oh, this is on backwards.
Oh,
My little Nick Valentine hat, this.
there you go. And there it is. Your
This is
winner.
a really bad bit.
Did you want the last question just for the crack?
Why not? For a bit of fun.
Just for a bit of fun, number 15, the Mr. Sandman perk present in Fallout 3 allows the player to do what?
Oh, is it kill people while they're asleep?
That is correct.
Mr. Sandman, stab them to death.
And there you have it, Joe Johnston, the winner of the What Culture Gaming Fallout quiz. How did you get on? Let us know down in the comments below. And yeah, keep your eyes peeled for more quizzes on the way because we got lots more coming. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you next time. Unless, of course, the nukes drop, in which case Joe's covered. He's got the glasses of protection.
I'm gonna crawl out through the fallout. When you drop that bomb.
Now, if there's one thing Bethesda does really well with the Fallout series, it is world building. Pretty much everywhere you go, there are stories to uncover which might span a huge epic quest or be as simple as a body clutching something in its hand. Now, many of these stories end badly. I mean, we are in the post-apocalyptic wastelands after all, but when you look into the history of Fallout's iconic vaults, well, they have some of the most disturbing stories in the entire franchise. So come join me around the campfire today and let's talk about some vaults. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and this is Fallout ranking every vault from least to most horrifying. Number 31, Vault 88, never finished. Added into Fallout 4 as DLC, Vault 88 is easily the least screwed up of all of its vaults, and there's one main reason for this, and that was that it was never finished. Instead, this vault only has a main entrance, security, and reactor rooms. The entire purpose of this in gameplay is that it's designed to be used by the player as a settlement in Fallout 4, and that they can customize it as they see fit. God knows what the vault would have been used for if it was actually finished. Number 30, Vault 8, Recolonization Vault. Vault 8 is perhaps one of the most tamest on the entire list of vaults that have actually appeared in the franchise so far. Appearing only in Fallout 2, Vault 8 is a control vault, and as such the inhabitants weren't actually subjected to horrendous experimentation. Instead, Vault 8 was designed to open after 10 years with the aim of the population recolonizing the local area. The facility was equipped with a GECK or Garden of Eden creation kit, which the dwellers used when emerging from the vault to create Vault City. Number 29, Vault 114, testing rich people in impoverished conditions. Vault 114 is another unfinished vault which is present in Fallout 4. And while it's never specifically confirmed in the game whether it's true or not, it's widely believed that this vault was never actually inhabited as it was unfurnished by the time that the bombs dropped. You can still, however, find out what the vault's intended purpose was. In this case, the vault was designed to house rich and affluent citizens with the promise of extreme levels of luxury underground. In reality, though, this was a complete and utter lie, and the vault was nothing like what was promised, and Vault Tech presumably wanted to study what the residents would do when they were stripped of all of their luxuries that they had before the war. Chances are the results of this experiment would read, didn't go well. Number 28, Vault 68, 999 men and just one woman. Needless to say, the horrors here are pretty obvious. Not so nice. Number 27, Vault 69, 999 women and just one man. Needless to say, the horrors here also are pretty obvious. Seriously, forced procreation isn't cool no matter how many times you say the word snoo snoo. Number 26, Vault 76, Control Group Vault with the best and the brightest. Fallout 76 namesake vault, Vault 76, is lucky enough to be one of the 17 control vaults throughout America. As such, inhabitants weren't subjected to horrible experimentations. The actual residents of the vault were some of America's best. It housed students from the Vault Tech University, members of the military, and even the former chief of staff in the White House. The idea was that these best and brightest would emerge from the vault after 20 years with the aim of recolonizing the area. But with high levels of intelligence comes high levels of arrogance, and inside the vault, there were clashes between the dwellers. The Overseer implemented several awards for the dwellers to earn to appease this, including a Vault 76 World Cup and Best Dental Hygiene Award, which actually resulted in a fight. After 25 years, the vault was opened on Reclamation Day, thus unleashing the inhabitants upon the world and them not having a clue what they were getting themselves into as they had no contact from the outside world. Number 25, Vault 3, Water Leaks and Massacres. Found in the Mojave Wasteland in Fallout New Vegas, Vault 3 is perhaps quite tame by Fallout Vault standards. You see, Vault 3 was considered a control vault. That basically means that it was a normal vault made for the purpose that it was actually stated to its inhabitants. There were no planned experiments, and thus Vault 3 acted exactly as it should as a nuclear fallout shelter. Even so, the fate of Vault 3 is still not particularly pleasant. Sometime in the 23rd century, the vault had a massive water leak, effectively cutting off the inhabitants from a significant portion of the vault and also damaging a large stockpile of supplies. This forced the inhabitants to open the doors of the vault and begin trading with the outside world. Just a few weeks later, the local bunch of crazies known as the Fiends cottoned on that there was a lovely little hideout just waiting for them to take, so stormed the place and brutally murdered all of the original inhabitants before claiming it for their own and using it as a prison. Oof. Number 24, Vault 13, stays closed for 200 years to study prolonged isolation. Appearing in both Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, on the surface, Vault 13 doesn't actually sound all that bad. There's no particularly horrible social experiment at work here, and the vault had plenty of resources and even a GECK supplied to them. Originally, this vault was part of an experiment called the Societal Preservation Program, and was intended to keep the vault sealed until the people inside were needed by the Enclave. The Fallout Bible, however, reveals that the vault was also designed to remain closed for 200 years to study how prolonged isolation affected its inhabitants. Vault 13 also has the distinction of being home to the Vault Dweller, the original Fallout protagonist. They're sent out into the wasteland from the vault after a malfunctioning water chip meant the vault must be opened. Number 23, Vault 15, closed for 50 years with people with radically diverse ideologies. Vault 15, present in both Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, was primed and ready to explode into a powder keg of internal strife. However, despite Vault Tech purposefully filling the vault full of people who were of massively different ideologies and cultures, for the most part, they actually lived together pretty well for some time. The only major event happened when there was some form of disagreement between the dwellers, and lots of the dwellers decided to open the door, steal all of the equipment inside, inside, including a very valuable GEC unit, and travel off to make their own lives in different communities. A small group stayed behind until the vault was finally raided by local bandits, and it was since left abandoned. Number 22. Vault 79 stores gold from America's bullion repository. First appearing in Fallout 76, Vault 79 was never intended to actually be used as a nuclear fallout shelter. Instead, Vault 79 housed the entire gold bullion haul of the United States government, as it was secretly moved from Fort Knox before the bombs dropped in 2077. The idea was that the gold would be used to rebuild society as and when it was needed, but of course, that never happened. The vault was guarded by several soldiers in the build-up to the nukes hitting, and they ended up being some of the vault's inhabitants. Several years later, a Secret Service agent named Shorty, who was in the vault, staged a mutiny and killed many of the soldiers inside. What happened after that is unknown, but it's believed that many of the other soldiers ended up killing themselves. Number 21. Vault 17, raided by Unity, and the inhabitants turned into super mutants. Vault 17 hasn't actually physically appeared in the series yet, but it is mentioned in Fallout New Vegas. As such, there's very little actually known about the Vault and its original stated purpose, but what we do know is that the Vault lasted until 2154, at which time it was raided by Unity. At this point, all of the inhabitants were captured and assumingly were subjected to the forced evolutionary virus and were all turned into super mutants. Not a nice outcome. Number 20. Vault 21, studying evolution of society by resolving conflict with gambling. Lady Luck was really smiling down on the inhabitants of New Vegas's Vault 21. Not only did these Vault dwellers manage to live successfully underground without killing each other, but they also managed to fulfill the quota of their social experiments as well. In true Vegas fashion, Vault 21 was all about the gambling. The Vault itself was spacious with plenty of resources, but any dispute or conflict was to be solved by gambling. The winner then earned the right to solve the dispute in a manner that they saw fit. In 2274, Mr. House, leader of New Vegas, managed to contact the Vault's inhabitants. He asked them to be part of the city's rebuild, and this caused conflict between the residents as some wanted to go and others didn't. In true Vault 21 fashion, this dispute was solved by a lengthy game of blackjack. The ones who wanted to leave won, the Vault was cleared out, and it was turned into a hotel by Mr. House. Number 19. Vault 101, to stay closed forever. Home to the Lone Wanderer, our protagonist from Fallout 3, Vault 101 had a directive from Vault-Tec to remain closed forever. The idea was that the Vault would never be exposed to the outside world, allowing Vault-Tec to study how its residents would survive and eventually have to resort to inbreeding in order to keep the population going. In the early days of the Vault, the Overseer helped to maintain the Vault by being closed by telling everyone that the world above was completely destroyed and that there was absolutely no hope of returning to the surface. In reality, however, the Vault door was actually opened several times. In fact, the Lone Wanderer and his father James actually came from outside the Vault and left it again at a later time. In 2258, the Vault also became more of a dictatorship, as the Vault's Overseer declared a police state designed to practice isolation. This leads to the Lone Wanderer fighting against the system and wanting to leave the Vault in order to pursue their father. Number 18. Vault 94, the goodness of humanity. Now, Vault 94 appears in Fallout 76, and its original purpose sounds all sugar and rainbows. The Vault was to be populated by non-violent groups who would assumingly live together in peace and harmony. The Vault had compact spaces for living quarters, but large-sized communal areas to ensure that the group remained together, and it had plenty of resources, but no weaponry. But as with many Vaults in Fallout, this wasn't all that was happening. The non-violent dwellers were being studied to see how they would adapt to life in a post-apocalyptic world, and that they were told to open the Vault door to outside people if they needed help, purely so that Vault-Tec could see how they would go against their belief system in order to protect themselves. A year after being sealed in 2077, the Vault was opened so that Vault ambassadors could travel to the wasteland and ask people to come back to the Vault. Many of these were brutally murdered by the local population. For the rest of the Vault dwellers, they were all murdered when an ambassador brought back residents of Harper's Ferry. The new arrivals were extremely suspicious of the nice inhabitants and decided to just blow them all away and take the Vault for themselves. Number 17. Vault 111. Population is unwittingly cryogenically frozen. Now, you'll definitely remember Vault 111 because it's one that you're forced to sprint inside and make it to just in the nick of time as the bombs drop in Fallout 4. On the surface, this Vault was promised to be just a fallout shelter like you'd expect. It was to house a large number of residents from the local area of Sanctuary Hills, including the sole survivor, our protagonist, and their spouse and infant Sean. When they reach the Vault, however, the family is placed inside chambers which claim to be for contamination, but in reality, these are cryogenic freezing pods, and the Vault was constructed to study the effects of cryogenic freezing on unwitting dwellers. When frozen, the sole survivor also briefly thaws out, witnessing their spouse being brutally murdered before their son is stolen. They're then frozen for another period of time, finally waking up 200 years after the initial freezing process to find that their vault has been completely abandoned. Number 16, Vault 29, housing the children of rich parents. Only mentioned in Fallout 76 and meant to be released as part of an update that never actually happened, Vault 29 sounds like quite the nice proposition. It was designed to be a fallout shelter for kids of rich parents, but in reality, the vault was purposely designed to study what would happen if it was only populated by children. No member of this vault was to be aged over 16. Their parents were redirected to other vaults when the bombs dropped, or adults allowed inside had bad health conditions that meant that they'd die very quickly. In the original plan, the children of the vault were to be looked after by robotic helpers who would bring them to maturity. In reality, Diana, a human brain connected to a computer, do not ask about that, hacked into the vault and closely followed the upbringing of all the children. She secretly also sent out a worker robot every year outside of the vault, which was pretending to check to see if the environment was safe for habitation. In reality, she was creating a settlement for the children called Twin Mothers, with the aim being to release them to it when it was completed. By 2253, the vault was emptied. The Twin Mothers settlement was established, and Diana is considered a god, and the vault is considered a holy place by its original dwellers. Number 15, Vault 81, researching diseases by exposing vault dwellers to them. When you wander into Vault 81 in Fallout 4, you'll be amazed to find that the vault actually still has its original inhabitants, and it's still functioning like it's meant to. But as is the case with Fallout regularly, there is definitely more to this vault than meets the eye. Turns out that this vault originally was created so scientists could try and find a cure for every single disease that affects humans. In order to do this, they created a vault to contain two sections, a single section with living quarters for normal inhabitants, and another secret vault populated by scientists that would then expose those humans to diseases and observe what happened. Due to the actions of the overseer, Dr. Olivet, this never actually happened though. 3 scientists turned up as planned when the bombs dropped, and the doctor went along with their plans for a while. When human testing was about to begin though, she deliberately sabotaged the system so the scientists couldn't release the diseases, then locked them away in a secret vault for the rest of their days. The rest of the vault's oblivious population then survived and prospered in the vault as they weren't being experimented on. Number 14, Vault 34, overstocked armory, overpopulation, and radiation. Now, what happens when you don't put enough living space into a vault, rely on recreational things such as swimming pools, and pack an armory to the gills with absolutely loads of weaponry? Well, for New Vegas' Vault 34, it meant riots, damage, and ghouls. The overabundance of guns in the vault's armory naturally led to a great emphasis on gun culture within the vault, but foreseeing problems between the dwellers and their access to weaponry, the Overseer quickly took steps to remotely lock down the armory from their terminal. Now, that didn't sit very well with the inhabitants. Demanding access to the armory, they were refused by the Overseer, so they started rioting and left the vault at some point in 2231. Due to the vault's lack of living space, it also suffered from overpopulation. When the rioters left, this made more space for the people, but overpopulation still took over again. The Overseer then tried to force population control measures on the residents, and again, they didn't like this. In the ensuing turmoil, the vault was damaged extremely, with the annoyed dwellers damaging the reactor cooling vents, main computer systems, and the vault structure in general. The reactor couldn't be repaired, so it started leaking out heavy radiation into the vault, and the exit to the vault could no longer be unsealed. This led to the residents slowly being turned into feral ghouls and glowing ones. Number 13, Vault 12, studying radiation by not closing the door properly. Ideally, when you're in a nuclear fallout shelter, you'd want to keep the nuclear fallout, out, but Vault 12's inhabitants in the original Fallout weren't so lucky. Although the vault was filled with resources, with every amenity in mind for the prospective vault dweller and fitted with advanced water purification systems, Vault-Tec purposely designed that the vault's door wouldn't close properly, meaning that the population was steadily exposed to extremely harmful levels of radiation. This massive dose of harmful rays killed a significant portion of the vault's inhabitants, and for those who survived, they turned into ghouls. On the plus side, after being ghoulified, the dwellers left the vault and founded the Necropolis Ghoul Settlement. Number 12, Vault 92, musicians are controlled via white noise. Appearing in Fallout 3, Vault 92 was housed almost entirely by musicians. To cater for them and their musical talents, the vault was stocked full of everything musical that they could possibly need, including sound equipment, musical instruments, and recording gear. The stated purpose of the vault was to maintain the musical legacy of America in the wake of the bombs dropping. In reality, however, the vault was designed to use white noise to subliminally influence the musicians inside. The vault was equipped with several white noise generators devices made for just this purpose. The first experiments succeeded. Dwellers were placed into trance-like states, but the white noise was slowly damaging their minds. One of the musicians went completely insane, murdered 3 other people, and had to be shot dead. With the insane dweller showing increased strength and tolerance to damage, the experiments continued. The white noise slowly damaged the minds of more and more dwellers, and gradually more went insane. Some even tore other dwellers to pieces with their bare hands, and on top of that, the entire vault was built badly and started flooding with regular water leaks. Great. Number 11, Vault 96, full of frozen animals and genetic experimentation. The idea of Fallout 76's Vault 96 was a sound one in principle. It housed a large amount, approximately 10,000 frozen animals inside, and was to be manned by a very small amount of scientists. The idea was pitched as reintroducing animals to the world in the wake of nuclear war, but good old Vault-Tec struck again by hiding the true intention of this vault. It turns out that the true mission of this vault was to actually conduct genetic experiments on the frozen animals. The scientists were tasked with a daily quote of genetic experiment credits that they had to meet, and so were forced, despite their objections, to implement new mutations into animals such as venom glands, cryogenic abilities, and even teleportation, which resulted in animals splicing together horribly. The overseer, Eric DeMarcos, was in charge of making sure that all the other residents met the daily quota. The other residents hated him for it and hated being forced to conduct highly unethical experiments. But what they didn't know is that Eric also hated it as well. He merely acted the way that he did to ensure the survival of his team. In secret, Eric developed a virus to effectively knock the Vault's dominating supercomputer out of action, hopefully allowing them to escape. When this was implemented, the computer deployed countermeasures and killed every member of the science team that was left in the Vault. Number 10, Vault 106, filled with colorless psychoactive drugs. So what do you do when you pump an isolated vault full of psychoactive drugs for years on end? Well, you get Fallout 3's Vault 106, which is packed full of absolutely insane survivors who've been breathing in that stuff for years. As a result, when the lone wanderer arrives in the vault, it's in a pretty big state of disrepair. Even so, the psychoactive drugs are still being pumped into the vault's atmosphere, which means that when you enter the vault, well, you also get drugged as well. Now, this is signified by the wanderer's vision going blue, and they start to see hallucinations of their father James, as well as apparitions of the tunnel snakes, the bullies from Vault 101. Interestingly, several cut hallucinations from this vault still actually exist within the game's code. It was originally planned to have the vault switch upside down and a strange hallway where the vault dweller would gradually shrink as well. It's a shame that they never made the final build. Number 9, Vault 22, Nature Always Wins. In New Vegas, when you encounter Vault 22, you'll see that it's quite unlike anything else. In stark contrast to the wasteland around you, Vault 22 is full of abundant green life with plants growing on almost every surface. Turns out that the reason for this is the vault was populated with scientists who specialized in creating crops, which were resistant to disease and drought. After being sealed, they continued on with these experiments, but unfortunately, the scientists went a bit too far. They developed a fungus for pest control purposes, but it had a life of its own, went airborne, and began infecting the vault's population. After many fell ill with a cough, they started to die one by one. But the only problem is that they didn't stay dead. The deceased came back as spore carriers, which are very similar to the infected in Naughty Dog's The Last of Us. The remaining scientists then tried to blow up the infected using gas and fire, but were overwhelmed by the monsters. For those that survived, they trekked out into the wasteland, where they became known as the Coughers, as they were still always coughing after being infected. They also turned to cannibalism soon after, gobbling down on the original inhabitants of Zion Canyon. Number 8, Vault 95, populated by drug addicts and primed to release drugs after 5 years. Now, there's a real problem in the universe of Fallout with people abusing chems, aka drugs. In Fallout 4, Vault 95 was designed to be completely populated by those suffering this addiction. Of course, the difficulties of living underground without a steady supply of drugs were challenging for all of the residents. But what happened after 5 years, well, it's even more screwed up. Vault-Tec's experiment in this case was trying to see what would happen if former addicts were suddenly given access to a huge amount of drugs. As such, after half a decade had passed, a secret agent in the population would open up a large-sized hidden supply of chems and document what happened afterwards. As the chems were revealed, any progress made to live together in harmony was destroyed overnight. Violence erupted across the vault, the chems were taken, and many residents immediately fell off the wagon. Due to the bodies inside, it's believed that most of the population then perished either through violent means or as a result of their addictions. Number 7, Vault 19, Red vs. Blue. Now, this New Vegas vault was all about paranoia. Upon entering the vault, dwellers were assigned a side, red or blue. There were two distinct parts of the vault governed over by two different overseers, and Vault-Tec did everything in their power to sow mistrust between the two different groups. It's widely believed that this was done through subtle means such as subliminal messaging, high noises, weird drafts from vents, and blinking light patterns. The two sides blamed the other for this, but in reality, the two overseers acting for Vault-Tec were experimenting on both sides to study how paranoia is caused by extreme circumstances. By the time the Courier, our protagonist from New Vegas, shows up, the vault is completely abandoned. The actual fate of its citizens has never fully been told. Number 6. Vault 112, the murderous virtual reality simulator. The Capital Wasteland in Fallout 3 is a horrible place, so you should be thankful that Vault-Tec took you away from all of that and inserted you unwillingly into a virtual reality to escape the horrors from the real world, right? Well, that's exactly what happens in Vault 112. The original residents, of which there could be up to 85, were placed inside of virtual reality pods by the overseer Dr. Brown. Of course, as this is Fallout, the virtual reality isn't the utopia that it's meant to be. You see, Brown goes completely insane and starts to subject his dwellers to significant mental torture, deliberately inventing scenarios in the virtual world where he can kill them mentally, wipe their memory, resurrect them, and do it all over again. By the time the Lone Wanderer arrives at the vault, the experiments have been going on for several decades, and you can strap yourself in for one of the series' most unique and memorable side quests, where you'll find Tranquility Lane, a picturesque American suburb where things get progressively more screwed up as you go on. Number 5. Vault 51. Zach's unit goes out of control. Vault 51, first appearing in Fallout 76, was bound to work right from the start, because everyone knows that putting a semi-sentient computer in charge of proceedings is going to be a good idea, right? I mean, that never goes wrong. Well, Vault 51 is quite unique in the world of Fallout in that it was never designed to have an overseer. Instead, the vault was governed over by a Zach supercomputer, which was given a mission to select a suitable leader from the vault's residents. At the beginning, the residents tried a standard democratic election to find a leader, which ultimately failed when everybody voted for themselves. At this point, Sergeant Robert Baker informed the Zach's computer that leaders are people who step up in times of crisis. Zach's decided to interpret this rather differently and try to make crisis in order to find a leader. It started making social experiments to force its inhabitants to become leaders. These included putting high-class citizens into cramped conditions with nothing but clothing, which forced a resident to go crazy and bomb the vault. But it gets worse from there. Zach started making residents fight through casino games. Started withholding food, rigged slot machines to purposefully lose, and even sent out houseflies to drive the population crazy. This all came to a head several years later, ending with violent deaths of all of the residents except Reuben Gill, who then became the overseer and then became an alcoholic due to his extreme isolation. Number 4. Vault 75. Refining human genetics and the parents executed. Vault 75 appears in Fallout 4 and is located under a school. In 2077, as the nuclear bombs began to fall, everyone who was meant to be in the vault managed to make it in time. This included a lot of children from the school as well as their parents and teachers. But what happens next is extremely dark. The security staff separated the children and the adults and then took the adults for orientation. In reality, they were taken off and killed one by one, leaving behind just the kids. The whole purpose of this vault was to manipulate the gene pool of its residents, using the best and brightest to create stronger, more intelligent humans. The children left behind were then subjected to almost torturous levels of mental and physical testing and conditioned to fear the surface, which was also known as Up Top Land. When a resident turned 18, they graduated from the vault. This meant that for the most part, that their good genes were harvested for future use and then they were killed, while some were drafted into the vault's science team. Anyone else deemed not strong enough, intelligent enough, or without enough air quotes good genes was then executed upon their graduation ceremony as well. Number 3. Vault 87. FEV Virus Vault, where people were exposed to the virus. What better place to conduct your morally questionable experiments than underground in a vault below Fallout 3's Capital Wasteland? Well, that's exactly what Dr. Wayne Merrick and his team did. The original purpose of Vault 87 was completely scrapped, and Merrick started experimenting with the forced evolutionary virus in order to create humans that were able to survive in the nuclear wasteland. Those poor humans in the vault were dipped into the FEV virus vats, where they re-emerged hideously deformed, dead, or ultimately transformed into super mutants. At some point, a nuclear explosion above the facility caused forced the test subjects to escape, where they promptly either killed or mutated the remaining human staff. Since that time, the super mutants have reached the surface, where they routinely grab humans and return them to their vault in order to mutate them into more super mutants. Because here's the problem, super mutants are sterile, and the only way to make their species survive is by creating new ones. By the time the Lone Wanderer comes around, the super mutants are running low on the FEV virus and are scouring the capital wasteland to find even more. Number 2, Vault 11, testing human nature with sacrifice. The Mojave Wasteland's Vault 11 is a grim one. Appearing in Fallout New Vegas, Vault 11 was made to test human nature itself. And how did Vault Tech decide to test this? Well, they told all of the inhabitants of the Vault that every year they must sacrifice one of their number, otherwise the Vault's computer would kill everyone instead. That's bad enough, but the reality of the situation is even worse. The dwellers followed the instructions and sacrificed somebody every single year until there were just 5 of them left. At this point, they decided that they were sick of the sacrifices, and the truth was finally revealed. The computer was never actually going to kill them, and instead they receive a message which states, "Your commitment to human life is a shining example to us all." The door lock of the vault then disengages, letting them all out if they so wish. And that came after countless years of democratically selecting somebody to be slaughtered, even though they didn't need to be, which results in most of the remaining dwellers killing themselves. Yeah, pretty grim. And number 1, Vault 108, testing conflicts in leadership and spawning Gary. Appearing in Fallout 3, Vault 108 was designed to invoke conflict amongst its residents by purposely not filling important positions and leaving it to the Vault residents to just do it for themselves. An overseer, Brody Jones, was chosen for the role, but he was destined to die of cancer within 3 years. To make matters worse, the Vault generators were purposefully designed to fail in 20 years' time, and the backup generator would not be sufficient enough to maintain the same levels of power. There were several scientists in this Vault as well, and their story is far more horrifying than its original intended purpose. They started experimenting with cloning technology and began to make clones of a man named Gary, and each of these Garys would end up being hostile to anyone but other clones. Yet, despite this, the scientists soldiered on and created 53 Gary clones before being overwhelmed and presumably killed by this psychotic clone army. By the time the Lone Wanderer arrives at the Vault, it's full to the brim with terrifying Gary clones and several wasteland creatures. Gary.
Hello everybody and welcome to What Culture Gaming. I'm your host, Cy White, joined by Dan Durkin.
Hello.
And joined by Joe Johnston.
Hello.
To talk all things Fallout TV series. We did a video last week breaking down episode 1, but now all 8 episodes, we have devoured them all, as you surely have as well. This is the full spoiler cast for series 1 of the show, and you know, what we thought of it, what we liked, didn't like, and where we think it might go in the future. So let's start broad. Dan, I asked you last week, you know, coming in as a big fan, what your expectations were and if it met them. So, Joe, in that case, did you have expectations for the show, and how did you feel like? Did it match them at all?
Yeah, I knew what I wanted from it, rather than expectations. You know, my expectation, and I think my knowledge coming in was this is going to be your classic story of a vault dweller leaves the vault and discovers the horrendous world outside, you know, discovers the wasteland. Of course, that was what we got. I also know what I wanted and what I didn't want from it. And the one thing that had, I suppose, worried me a little bit was when I saw the original trailers, it came across like it was maybe going to be very serious. There was some humor in them, but it came across mostly very serious. And knowing Jonathan Nolan, who has written most of Christopher Nolan's films and sort of was the guy behind Westworld, I thought, oh, is this going to go down a slightly po-faced route when Fallout has always been very funny?
Yeah.
In reality. And luckily we got that. The whole show is genuinely funny from start to finish. You know, not quite on the level of being a comedy, but keeps that really like charming humor that Fallout has always had through and through. So I was really pleased with that. And that was just one of the few things about it that I thought was brilliant. One of the many things about it that I thought was brilliant. You know, that's one tiny aspect. Overall, I thought we had a really, really great show, a really brilliant first season. And it kind of gave me everything I wanted from a first season of a Fallout show.
We talked about that when we, as I say last week, talked about episode 1, where you really get that moment in that first episode where all the violence starts and it's kind of played for laughs, like it's kind of ridiculous. And that was a moment for me where it was like, okay, good. Like, this is video game silly as well.
Yeah.
And it balances all of that nicely. And Dan, you and I were very happy with episode 1, a lot of praise on it. Did that sort of continue for you through the rest of the season?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think there was a really consistent bar of quality throughout the whole show, which is very hard to do. But yeah, from the get-go, I really enjoyed it, and it just continued. It got better. There was a little bit here and there that I didn't agree with and thought could have been done better, but we'll probably get into that in a bit. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it.
It's been called one of the best video game adaptations of all time, obviously, been chucked right up there with The Last of Us. And there's a big discussion to be had there about whether or not video games are better off as TV series rather than film, because back-to-back successes here. And I think they've even cited that The Last of Us was an inspiration for Fallout, which is really good. And I'm with you guys completely. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not much of a binger of TV series, but I kind of accidentally watched all of this in the space of 2 days. So to have that going for it at the very least. And even as someone who's, I wouldn't say cursory knowledge of Fallout, it's a bit more than that. I know there's plenty of the lore and stuff, but I'm not deep into it. I've always been interested in that world and never necessarily played through a full game. I really, really enjoyed it. And this is kind of what I needed to be like, I can actually get entrenched in this world a little bit more, because I don't necessarily get on with the gameplay of Bethesda games. It's like, finally, I get to enjoy Fallout, and I watched most of it with a Fallout fan sat next to me as well. So they were just like, oh, this is this, by the way. And I'm like, oh, I know that one. And, that there was lots of, oh, I know that at the very least. How do we feel about how it handled like references throughout? Do you feel like it was a bit heavy-handed with that kind of thing, or did it feel like it was just you were in the world, so it made sense for it to be there, which is how I felt. But again, I have an outside perspective on this. So, Joe, did you feel like it was heavy-handed with any references, or was it just about spot on?
No, I think everything was handled very organically, because I've really sort of turned against the, when you get a show or a film that, I mean, the current sort of, the current like Marvel and Lucasfilm properties are such a nightmare for this of, something appears on screen and there's a pause because they're waiting for the audience to applaud, and it feels, and I just hate that so much. But none of this felt like it did that. There were constant sort of visual references to this and that. There's that when Lucy early on, she opens a little box of Yum Yum deviled eggs, and the box of Yum Yum deviled eggs is there on screen for you to see, but it doesn't pause on it hugely. It doesn't point at it and go, look at this thing you can eat in the game, and nothing at any point ever felt like it was like really thrust in your face like that. It was just there in the world, because the world needs to have all that stuff to be the world of Fallout. So it needs to be there on screen, obviously, but not in a way that's trying to kind of get a cheer out of the audience. It's just all there. And they've kind of recreated that world, I'd say, incredibly well.
Dan, same question for you. Was there any references that you particularly liked, or any that turned you off?
Yeah, well, I think as a whole, as Joe just mentioned, like everything felt organic, and I think that is the main thing. Just things like hearing the noise of the guns reloading, hearing like the stim pack noise, like it's just ripped from the game, and I think it fits into the show really, really well, and it's not in your face. And I think that's the most important thing, because they could very well just rely like too much on the references, like, oh, it's Nuka-Cola and all that, like it's from the game, like look at this. But I think, yeah, like Joe said, it was like integrated into the world, like so organically, it's more believable that way, I think, because the amount of things that are just there in the background, like you see like a super mutant arm in the Enclave thing at the start, you see like bits of like robots and other things just in the background, and you have to be like on the lookout for it as well. Like there's a lot of stuff that is there like front and center, but there's a lot of hidden references, I think, in the background of the scenes too, which you might have to go back and rewatch certain scenes to like pick up on that sort of thing. And I think, yeah, it was really well done.
I think one of the things in terms of recognizable stuff, just very surface level, is the characters they picked as well. Like they picked, no, I don't want to say obvious, that sounds, harsh, but they picked a Vault Dweller, a Ghoul, and someone from the Brotherhood of Steel. It was like, these are the three obvious sort of character designs to lead the show. And I was kind of intrigued by how they were going to juggle these three characters and what the story was going to be, where they were going to team up and journey together. And it's not that, like, they're all doing the same thing, but they kind of cross paths as they go and weave around and they all sort of bump into each other in mostly separate ways and that kind of thing. So let's talk about characters.
Yeah.
Joe, any standout characters for you from the main three, or just in general, who did you like?
Well, I think speaking of the protagonists, first off, I think they've done a really, really great job with them because as you go through it, they've got these three conflicting personalities kind of really perfect. So if we start with Lucy, she's your classic vault dweller and is so incredibly naive. I think they've written her very well. You know, that kind of main overarching bit of personality is kind of naivety. And I think she does even say it at one point. She says, vault dwellers, we're naive, and that's a good thing. You know, she constantly believes in kind of doing better and doing right by people. And to kind of boil it down to video game speak, I like that she was like a player character who's trying to kind of roll charisma a lot of the time. You know, she's not like a pure combat build, essentially. So much of what happens with her, she's attempting to get by via sort of de-escalation and conversation and things. I think that's really nice. But what they also did was that early montage of her kind of saying, hey, I'm Lucy, and it was applying for a marriage license, essentially, wasn't it? But she says, you know, I'm proficient in target practice and like martial arts and this and this and this, engineering. Yeah. So it was kind of giving her a reason to not be completely useless when she got out into the world. It was like, okay, we've established this kind of fun, quite jokey reason why she's tough. But she's also still completely unprepared for what she sees. And then Maximus, again, naive, but kind of in his own way, having been essentially raised by a sort of pseudo-religious, pseudo-fascist cult of like weird techno-Nazis. You know, when Lucy very matter-of-factly says, hey, do you want to have sex? Which I just thought was brilliant. She's like, why wouldn't you just say that? And he's like, what, the thing that makes you do strange stuff? Like, yeah, okay, dude. You've been raised very badly.
Like, Maximus became a little bit of a caricature of himself, because at the start he seemed like quite competent, but then as it went on, I think it was a little bit weird, like his personality shift.
I can see that. But I think it worked quite nicely with them going into Vault 4, not to jump ahead too much, and seeing him kind of embrace like, oh, I'm being looked after. Mm-hmm. And I've got all this nice stuff. And I sort of think, if I was that guy, I might do that. You know, like maybe you would kind of try and embrace a slightly more peaceful life. I don't know if I would say that he becomes a caricature, but maybe on a rewatch, which I will do at some point, maybe I will find that. Do you want to just elaborate a bit more on that before we get to the ghoul?
Yeah, I mean, I can see the perspective on that. I actually quite liked the sort of mirroring of those two characters being naive. Like, Lucy's the sort of true lawful good, as you'd expect, coming out of a vault, having quite a cushy life and all of this, and then repeatedly throughout the series, over and over and over again, she gets basically, you know, loads of examples of why you should trust absolutely no one. And she gets to the point where it's like, there's genuine help, and she's very aware that this could be a trick. And so I quite liked that. And same thing kind of goes for Maximus, but on the other side, like for a lot of the show, I feel like it was you're not sure if you're meant to be able to trust this guy, because there's a lot of questions early on about whether he injured his soldier in arms with the boot trick at the beginning, with the razor blade in the boot. And that's a question about whether or not he did it until the end of the season. And obviously he watches the real Night Titans die, and then he's like, haha, now I get the armor that I've wanted all my life. I quite liked him as this sort of, he's almost like, and Joe, I'm on your side here a little bit, like all the people that are like, oh, the armor's so cool, but just ignore the fact that they're actually kind of a weird bunch of dudes. Because he's just totally focused on, I want to wear the armor because it will make me heroic, and he will screw over anyone to get to that point. because he's got a certain set of ideals that aren't actually correct, and it's certainly not how other people view, the people in that armor. So I thought that was really interesting to see those character arcs. And on the other side, you mentioned the Ghoul. He's the complete reverse of that. Like, he's over it. He's seen it all. One of his first lines when he comes out of the ground close to it is, "I'm in this for the love of the game."
Yeah.
He is chaos, which I thought was quite interesting. Dan, what did you make of the Ghoul?
I loved him. I think Cooper was his name, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Do you remember what his surname
Howard.
was? Cooper Howard.
Yeah. And it turns out at the end, he's still looking for his family. So that raises the question of what's gone on with them. And obviously we're going to go into like season 2 discussion a little bit like further down the line. But like, he's just a badass like gunslinger character that I think this world needs. And like, even though he's kind of like the bad karma-esque character, like I found myself rooting for him in most of the situations that he was put in. And like the episode when they were at the Super Duper Mart, when he just goes in and gets like, takes all the like chems and stuff. It was so funny to see.
Fills himself full of chems.
Yeah. I think the like juxtaposition with the pre-war stuff as well, like we're seeing him, what he was like before the bombs fell in, like how his perception of Vault-Tec and all that changed because like he was spying on his wife and all that sort of thing. And just seeing this character like become he was like this icon with being a movie star, and then now he's just this jaded, like badass, just murderer, pretty much.
Well,
like
not just a movie star, but a Western star, a kind of an all-American hero star. So all-American that the Vault suits were based off the colors he wore.
Yeah,
as this character. I really like to just sort of get into the weeds a bit. He goes from, in the present day, or is it the past, or is it the future? Because it's 2077, who knows? The flashback scenes, his films are very much archetypal kind of American Westerns of, say, the 50s. But the character he resembles 219 years later as a kind of wandering, amoral drifter is much closer to your kind of Clint Eastwood, your Sergio Leone spaghetti Western character. And at various times, he reminded me of all three of those characters from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Blondie, Angel Eyes, and Tuco, directly at times. When he's in the in one of the later episodes where he goes to that the lead farmers. The lead farmers who were wearing very cool NCR helmets.
Yes, I love that.
Nice detail. When he goes to them, that's very reminiscent of a scene in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly where Angel Eyes has tracked down a family and is questioning them, And certainly earlier on, whenever he turned up on screen, he had a little leitmotif, which you may have noticed, which wasn't quite the full Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But it very much did that, and that is what Eastwood would have behind him every time he turned up on screen in that film. So they know what they're doing there, and I think it's very smart.
I thought his inclusion as sort of being able to be a part of that pre-war story stuff was really good, and I know this is
brilliant.
I was very aware watching it. I was like, this is the kind of stuff that might upset some fans when it comes to the lore and stuff, because I know this. Even though it's not in the games, obviously, because games take place way later, this stuff's really precious and really important for building that universe. So for him to be inserted into it as a new character and having the background that he does have, which I thought was really good, like, as you say, the American paragon of virtue movie star that does one advert and then it kind of wrecks his career because of his association with the bombs being dropped and stuff like that, I thought was really interesting. But even there's like his connections closer to Vault-Tec, and there's a lot of discussion about maybe Vault-Tecs are the one to drop the bomb that's been inserted. I know that's a point of contention with some people that watch this. So I guess talking about the pre-war stuff, as you guys as fans, you feel like it honored that in the right way, or was there stuff in there where you were like, I kind of wish they hadn't made him, the Vault Boy or whatever?
I didn't mind that. Like, I thought it was good to now have that, like, where that iconic imagery has come from.
Yeah.
We now know that. And I think, again, like talking about the pre-war stuff, just seeing how like the Vault-Tec employees, like sided with some of the other big corporations as well, and that explains where the experiments came from. It's just a bunch of like rich assholes like having their little experiments. Like I think one said like, what if we put like the kids and the parents not together in the vaults and like the strongest kids will survive and all that, and it just makes more sense now knowing that. Like, so it wasn't Vault-Tec that did that, it was these like rich like assholes playing God.
Yeah, a huge conglomerate of various different corporations, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm fully on board with what they did with the flashback scenes, because it's always been like, there's always been sort of touches of it, little bits of flavor of it throughout the games, but we've never really seen much of it. You know, in the games, what's the pre-war stuff we've seen? That one bit at the beginning of Fallout 4, you know, but having all your corporations kind of finally come together when they're told by, you know, when Vault-Tec sort of says, hey, let's all work together and commit crimes against humanity, you know, and keep our profit margin going. And Cooper's kind of development, his arc going from, you know, well, early on when you see him and they've changed the script so he shoots the guy in the face and he's like, hey, I'm not the guy who does that. I'm the guy who I arrest people. You know, I'm an American. We do good. We American. We do good thing. You know, to put it one way. But learning that, you know, and at points he does talk about how, no, America's the greatest country in the world. We've got freedom. We've got capitalism, you know. Communists, what do they have?
He fought in the war, didn't he? Like,
yes, he did. He fought in the Battle of Anchorage. Yeah, that's right, which is revealed later on when he's talking about the T-45 armor.
Yeah.
And a good bit of DLC for Fallout 3, that.
It is.
Really hard, though. But, so, you know, he talks about fighting the communists and how awful they are. And talks about, you know, communism ends with bread lines. But over time, he realizes that actually capitalism just ends up with, you know, 3 really rich guys at the top stomping all over everyone else. So, like, which is the right way to go? Maybe one, maybe the other, maybe neither. Maybe bomb everyone and just let the world kind of decide, you know? And by the end of it, that's kind of how he comes across when he's a ghoul. He's like, he didn't have any reason to care. He's seen 200 years of humanity just tearing itself apart. Yeah. You know, he's gone from the ultimate idealist to the ultimate cynic. But then by the end, he's got a little bit of that, not idealism back, but a little bit more reason, having stumbled upon, you know, the overseer, whose name I've suddenly forgotten.
Hank McLean.
Hank McLean, that's
With
right.
the ghoul, you kind of see aspects of his humanity in earlier episodes as well, because I think does he have Lucy as a prisoner at this point? I don't know, but then they see this ghoul who's going feral, and like,
crazy.
He puts him down, but he like, just before he does it, he says, oh, remember is it like the apple pie or
apple
something?
Pie.
Yeah. And it gives him like a good memory, then he puts him out of his misery.
Yeah, his
much.
last memory is, that's it. He turns to Lucy, doesn't he? And he's smiling, talking about this apple pie. And it's, and he shoots him so that he doesn't even know he's going to get shot either because he can't see the gun, which was very sort of Mice and Men. Hey, Lenny or George, look at the rabbits.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
type of situation.
Think of the apple pie.
Yeah, a nice mercy kill. That does bring me to a point, actually, that I wanted to bring up, and this was one note I had on something I wasn't sure I liked. Was that now I think this is a new bit of lore or a bit of a retcon. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems to this chem that he keeps taking through his little inhaler is implied to be stopping him from going feral. Now, the series seems to imply that going feral is now an inevitability without that drug. I don't think that's ever been a thing in the past. I'm pretty sure that while the majority of ghouls did turn feral, the ones who didn't, you know, the ones who you're coming across in the games are fine. You know, they're ghouls. They've got, you know, they're kind of like living zombies, but they live within society and aren't inherently a threat. And now turning them all into ticking time bombs, I don't think works quite so well, because that gives kind of, the Brotherhood of Steel, they hate ghouls. They kill every ghoul on sight. And that was always like, that's because they're essentially racists. They are human supremacists. Ghouls are an abomination. Even if they're not feral, we kill them, despite the fact that they don't deserve that. But now every ghoul, as I say, being a ticking time bomb, it gives the Brotherhood more justification for that. And I don't think that works as well. I think it's nicer to have ghouls that can just live and not have to constantly be worried about eventually turning on everyone. I don't think that is a good change. Whether we examine it more, we don't know. Presumably the ghoul is going to have access to that drug for as long as he needs to, really.
Yeah.
And
he got a giant supply, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. But I'd hope that any other ghouls we're going to see on the regular are also going to have plenty of that, so we don't have to just see them all eventually turn feral, because that's not something we need. Ghouls are a good thing to have around. I like ghouls. I think they've always got a lot of really good personality, and I don't need to see them all eventually turn into zombies.
How did you feel about how the series handled the creatures? Because we don't get a lot, but we do get some. I was a little bit sad we didn't get any death claws, but how did you think, one, the CGI looked, and two, how it handled the inclusion of these creatures?
Oh, I mean, when it comes to the death claw, it's one of those things that you want to hold back on, right? I think don't they show a skull?
You see a skull
one?
right at the end.
Yeah, I was
Right at the end,
see,
you see a
look,
skull.
at least I recognize this kind of thing, right? But that seems like something that's they're going to make you wait for that, and that's fair. For me, there probably could have been a bit more of it, ideally, but I also understand, budgetary reasons, CGI reasons, it can be a little bit hokey. What they did do largely, I thought, was quite good. Because it has, I wouldn't say a colourful palette, but it's certainly not a dark show by any means. The fact that the CGI might not always be perfect, it just kind of worked for me. We've got a bit of slapstick humour. The guy gets mauled to death by this giant bear thing. It's kind of fun and goofy. It might not look perfect all the time, but I was engaged enough with the way that it set up the universe. It didn't matter too much.
Yeah.
I like the way they used the rad roaches was cool. So overall for me, was fine. The swamp thing probably looked the worst, but it's fine.
Is that a gulper?
I think they called it a gulper.
It's got loads of human fingers in its mouth.
It has, hasn't it?
And then you kind of learn potentially why, because in Vault 4 they're doing experiments.
Yeah, that
this
was the
woman's,
origin.
Gives birth, and I guess that's why it has
Grim.
fingers.
Gives birth to piranhas that then eat her. That's okay.
Brutal.
That was nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the gulper. We've never seen those in any games, have we?
I think that's new.
I think that's a new monster. Yeah, I think at times it maybe looked a little bit janky again, which is it tends to be a problem when you have something with TV budget that tries to illuminate its CGI characters in bright daylight. The trick is hide them in shadow. The season 1 of The Witcher was extremely guilty of not having a big budget for its CGI and trying to show it all on screen at once, and that gold dragon looked awful. If they had just hidden it in shadow, it would look great. But I don't think it matters so much with, say, the Gulper, because I just think its design was so imaginative. I was not focused on, this looks a little bit off. I was focused on, it's got human fingers inside of its mouth instead of teeth, and that's a really...
It's kind of cartoony looking, isn't it? By design?
Design. An excellent imaginative bit of design, which I think kind of transcends any flaws that some of the CGI might have. And with the other creatures, we had the bear, the Yaogui.
Yaogui.
Are they called that because it sounds like Yogi?
That's my thinking as well. Yaogi bear.
I think it is. I think it's a reference to some Chinese creature, isn't it? Which kind of makes a lot of sense with China having a lot to do with the background of Fallout. But we had the Yaogui, which was good. I think a creature like that is a good threat, and it is the sort of thing which realistically could kill a guy in great big armor.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of rad roaches, and that makes a lot of sense because they're the sort of things that would be extremely common. You know, they're all of the wildlife you're going to see. And there wasn't a great deal of other stuff, was there? We didn't get, we didn't get mole rats. We didn't
scorpions.
We didn't get rad scorpions. We didn't get super mutants. Of course, we didn't get. And there were several different points where I thought, oh, they're teasing a super mutant here. We're going to get super mutant, and that didn't happen. And sometimes I would be a little bit like, oh, I really want a super mutant, but actually, let's just, let's get to season 2 or season 3 and have the super mutants be a big deal instead of just like random guys that the protagonists encounter sometimes and fight. Because you have to adapt this world, don't you? It can't, I can imagine there being a lot of complaints from people going, well, there's not enough combat, when you play the games, there's constantly, there's so many more enemies and things, but then your show wouldn't have a story.
Yeah, it would just be a series of CGI fight scenes.
Yeah,
which
it would be it'd be a video game cutscene, really.
Yeah, and I could understand why that would appeal to some of the fans, because you get to see a bunch of creatures that they know and love and point and whatever, but I don't think it would land in a way that would make it memorable.
No.
It'd be just like, here's as you say, a cool cutscene, essentially, that's part live action, whereas for this to succeed with a wider audience and also just to have a lasting impact, the most important thing is the fact that it told a bunch of different stories, both post and pre-war as well, set up a bunch of characters and a bunch of stuff for season 2. So I think they made the right choice there. I think you're right. There'll probably be more in future seasons now that we're off the ground. But this is more just like laying things down to move forward. You talked about some stuff that you didn't like, Joe, throughout that. Dan, is there anything in the season that you didn't particularly take to or you thought could have been done better?
So I did have a couple of gripes with it, and I did message you about this earlier on, Si. So with Vault 32, I don't think it ever explained how they all died, because it's implied that there's a load of violence that's happened. You've got people sticking knives in toasters and like taking their own lives and things like that. But like it's never fully explained like why. So obviously they found out what was going on, but they kind of just left it at that, I think. And I was a little bit confused about that. I didn't like how we saw a couple of like plasma pistols and laser rifles and things like that, and they never got fired once. Did you notice that? It was all like ballistic weapons.
Good point. Yeah, they didn't do much with energy weapons or anything, did they? They did have a junk jet early on.
Yeah, I know, that was so
guy
cool.
gets killed with a baby doll's leg.
And there was the thing about is it Moldova?
Moldova, yeah.
Moldova. So it's not explained how she's a little bit older, but like how she got from being the same age pre-war to still being alive. Like, obviously she's like froze herself or something in one of those cryo chambers, but it's never explained how she got from hating Vault-Tec and all that to then getting in the vault,
into one of those chambers.
Yeah, it's kind of just glossed over. I guess we've got to like make that assumption ourselves. And in the final episode with the Brotherhood of Steel, when they're at the Griffiths Observatory, when Cooper shows up, he somehow knows the weakness in the power armor. But when he fights him earlier in the series, like Maximus, he doesn't mention that.
Oh, yeah, he wasn't.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, that's
wasn't
very
considering
good
that at all, was he? Yeah, that feels like a kind of intentional oversight to just to raise the stakes earlier on, but then to allow him to just be a complete invincible, sort of badass later, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose that's maybe that's a little bit weak, isn't it? I hadn't considered that.
A lot of them are just nitpicks.
Yeah, I think like I think your thing about the Ghoul, because he's credited as both. He's credited as Cooper in the flashbacks, and he's credited as the Ghoul later on. So the Ghoul, kind of the Ghoul, because he's the man with no name, I suppose. Yeah. The idea that he seems to conveniently remember later on that the armor has a weakness, that's not great. I think your questions with Moldova and the Vault Dwellers, I suppose I would say with Moldova, I guess we can just assume that she's somehow contrived a way to get into that cryopod. You know, she's clearly got like a lot of power in some way.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find out there was another sort of insider, you know, who was going to take things down 200 years later. I don't know. And what I gleaned from Vault 32, and I suppose this is just me making it up in my head, some of those characters had committed suicide and some of them had killed each other. So presumably, you know, you've got the knife in the toaster, person in front of the telly who couldn't deal with it all, killed themselves. You know, the Overseer, however, has been clearly tied up and murdered. And I'm guessing it's a bit of a kind of Vault 33 situation where there were certain people who were from Vault 31 originally who were trying to kind of keep the status quo, and various Vault 32 inhabitants found out, and it created a kind of civil war within the vault. That civil war then having kind of taken over any of the farming or anything, so all the crops died, and any last survivors just died off.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
it would have been really good if
know.
they'd have made that clear, I think. Like, I would have been all about that. But yeah, the fact they left it really vague about what happened is also something that I came out of the show like, oh, I kind of feel like I got a half-finished story when it came to the sort of trilogy of Vaults Connected, which I thought was a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
Obviously brand new for the franchise. But some of those questions feel like they're left hanging for a season 2.
Yeah, because we're clearly going to get those characters again for season 2.
The vaults are going to be a major part. Those 3 vaults are going to continue to be a major part of it. Which I don't know if you can necessarily say the same thing with Lee Moldova, who's presumably dead.
Yeah, we reckon she's dead.
Which leaves all these questions unexplained unless she comes back or is still a major part of the story drive despite not being alive anymore for season 2. How she's still around for 200 years. Is she a synth? I've seen people suggesting that.
Oh, okay.
It's a little odd that they made a big reveal of her, like pre-war her meeting Cooper, but then they don't really explain how we get from point A to point B. So for me, that's a big thing that I was like, oh, it's kind of trailed off at the end there.
Yeah, maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't. Before we do go on to talking about any season 2 stuff, I've just, speaking of the vaults, I wasn't expecting to get so much back in Vault 33. I thought it was really nice that actually got its own full story, centering around Norm,
the brother,
because he in that early montage, and Lucy's talking about how great she is and how the sun shines out of her ass. Norm is like sat there on his Pip-Boy playing like one of the little kind of Game & Watch style games, like the missile defense game or whatever it was.
Missile Command.
Missile Command, yeah. And
That's
he's
the one.
And he seems completely ineffectual and kind of useless. But then he actually starts doing a bit of detective work, and gets very much his own story. And I love that they paired him up with Chet. Your big sort of Lucy's big tall cousin who's in love with her. A bit weird. Yeah, they talked about cousin stuff, didn't they? And it's like, okay, Shelbyville. But I did find it just a really charming kind of visual gag that they were essentially doing, that Norm is this comically short little guy and Chet is extremely tall, and they're both good. They have to frame it all really awkwardly so that they're both in frame.
Yeah.
I swear Chet is like 2 foot taller than Norm. But I thought their characterization was great, and all the stuff that was going on in the vault with the kind of the sort of political struggle between these kind of oblivious nice guy counselors and then and then Betty, who was basically angling to become a dictator. Very, very nice bit of subplot going on there. And it'll be good to see kind of where that goes later, whether these characters also have to leave the vault.
Also, Norm hacked her terminal in one try as well.
Yeah.
When you do that in the game, it's the best feeling.
Yeah. That seemed very lucky, didn't it? He could have at least got it wrong once.
Uh-huh. What did you think of the whole Shady Sands thing?
I was going to ask that next.
That they dropped the bomb on that, because that was the big twist.
There's been some contention there, hasn't there? I think like I've seen some of the usual kind of internet outrage on like it's not been dreadful, but if there's been people saying, oh, that's kind of disrespectful to not Fallout 76 fans. They don't deserve respect. I kid. If you like Fallout 76, great. I'm sure it's fine.
I went back to try that again, actually.
Was it any
recently.
good?
No, not my cup of tea. So
Fine.
you can't do missions in co-op. So like that the story progresses for both players who are playing together. Which
That's rubbish.
Is kind of sucky. So I
That's
just
completely
uninstalled it.
stupid. Yes, not Fallout 76. Fallout New Vegas. People said Fallout New Vegas fans have been disrespected because this makes Fallout New Vegas non-canon. And the implication is because Shady Sands was bombed in 2277, which I think is the year that Fallout 3 is set. And of course, Fallout New Vegas takes place in 2281. So this taking place in 2294 or 20,
Something like that.
2290 something, isn't it? 219 years later, 2296 maybe.
Anyway,
not that it matters.
Yeah.
You know, so this is sometime after those bombs have dropped, but also sometime after Fallout New Vegas could have happened. But I don't necessarily agree that it makes it non-canon. I think it maybe changes a few things, but New Vegas is clearly still there, and they're obviously planning to do something really important with New Vegas. Like if you were trying to like do some disrespectful New Vegas is non-canon, why would you tease New Vegas at the end? And why would you have Robert House show up in that board
that
meeting?
Was so cool.
You know, Mr. Robco himself, Robert House, the best name in Fallout, because it sounds made up.
It was in the quiz that I remember.
Yeah, Robert
It was that
House.
I wrote.
The Fallout
thing
quiz
is-
available now on More Culture Gaming YouTube.
That's it.
Plug,
Yeah.
plug, plug.
You'll never
When-
guess who won.
They showed the NCR flag. It
Yeah.
played the main Fallout theme over
Yeah.
it, like, and it kind of set the NCR up as the traditional like good guys, the good faction.
Yeah. I think the NCR is kind of always been the closest Fallout's had to a kind of decent faction. Because I mean, the NCR is what Lee Moldaver and Lucy's mum, Rose, you know, they were part of that, and it did come across as a good place.
But
And you
at
know,
the start, you had them going into Vault 33 and just murdering everyone, like with the Raiders.
yeah. Well, I would imagine that they're no longer the NCR anymore, are they? By that point, you know, the NCR were a nice faction. They were peaceful. They were kind of democratic, and then they get nuked by this overseer because their world does not fit his narrow vision of a utopia. So he nukes them, or he bombs them, or whatever. I think you probably would abandon your nice, peaceful principles, and you know, you would kill. You know, you just fight your way through who you need to fight in order to get this guy. And the fact that those raiders didn't murder every single person in that vault, which was what I was fully expecting. You know, they came to get Hank, and that's what they did. They pretty much left once they had that opportunity, rather than just outright murdering everyone like a gang of raiders would do. So I don't think it contradicts it.
I think, yeah, as you guys have said, the fact they've hinted towards New Vegas is handy because, if nothing else, this being a big talking point among the fans now, they're probably going to double down on that in season 2 to try and, if you want to call it, correct their mistake or whatever, but just reassure fans that, no, we're trying to do right by everyone. I know the writer came out on Twitter to say that, nope, New Vegas is definitely still canon. I've been very careful about making sure all the lore is handled well. Whether there was like a mistake in the dates or whatever, or there's more to this that we don't know, that is definitely something that I think will become clearer in a season 2. Whether it was intended to or not before, I think they're going to respond to that because there are been a lot of upset fans about it, which is fair enough, I guess. But yeah, let's talk about season 2 then.
Yeah.
Do you want to see more New Vegas stuff? Where do you want to see these characters go? What do you expect from it? We've talked about plot threads that are left hanging that may or may not be picked back up on. But Dan, what would you like to see out of a season 2?
I want to see Lucy continue to grow and like level up and become more of a badass. Get some cool gear. I think like that would be cool. I want to see like more mutated creatures and more of this world. Trying to think. It'd be nice to see the Mysterious Stranger as well. I thought we may potentially get like a hint at that with these little theme tune, but we didn't, so that's yet to come. And I think like seeing Vats in live action as well, if they could figure out a way to introduce that into the series, I think would be cool. And yeah, I just want them to continue the path that they're going on, because they clearly know what they're doing with this like source material, and like I fully trust them after this first season because I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, Vats was one of the major things for me that was like noticeably missing, and for good reason, because it's a gameplay thing more than anything else. So, but it would be interesting for them to, even if they just sort of like wings and nod about it a little bit, and kind of mentioned it rather than made it a part of the actual show. But in terms of character arcs, we've got Maximus at the end there actually being knighted as Knight Maximus, presumably. I would like to see his character, now that he's seen the vault and kind of connected with people outside of his faction, how he might necessarily push back against the Brotherhood of Steel's ways and sort of become at odds with his upbringing and that kind of stuff and the people that he works with alongside there, because he's had an interesting sort of perspective on it now, going through what he did in the first season. So I'm really interested actually to see where his character goes. We know what the Gauler's doing. I'm kind of left at a loss for what's next for Lucy, really, other than chasing down her dad, which is the plot of season 1.
More side quests, I guess.
But now he's evil. Yeah, we're going to do more BS, as the Gaul calls it, which was a fantastic line, by the way, that we need to mention. Joe, what do you think from a season 2? What would you like to see?
So yeah, I suppose for me, the Maximus stuff is going to be very interesting because the last thing we see of him really is, Lucy tries desperately to get him to wake up and then leaves him, I guess, presuming he might be dead. So the last thing he finds is he wakes up and he's been abandoned by them. And then the Brotherhood all rallies round him based on a lie.
That's true.
I do wonder, is he going to feel betrayed? Is he now leading a Brotherhood that he doesn't really want to be a part of, but he's also been, quote unquote, abandoned by his friends? So I think there's some interesting potential for some good character interplay there. As for the other characters, I think you two both explained kind of where we think they're going to go. Season 2, yeah, great. I'd like to see some New Vegas. I'd like to see some of that. But honestly, what I will say now is I'd rather talk about what I want to see for season 3.
Go on.
Interesting.
Because season 2 is obviously going to continue this story. I had actually been hoping that at the end of season 1, their stories would conclude. Because I think Fallout should be an anthology. I think if you have season 2, let them finish their stories there, rather than do a Walking Dead thing where it eventually just circles the drain until everyone gets bored of it, and falls off. I would say their stories, let that play out, so they have like a 16 episode run or something if they're going to do another 8-parter. That's nice. Their stories are then done. So we've had our Vault Dweller, we've had our like Ghoul Gunslinger, we've had our Brotherhood of Steel initiate type character. Turn it into an anthology after that. Those characters are done. Maybe they'll turn up. Maybe they'll turn up in a scene or something. But then let's have season 3 be set. Maybe not in New Vegas this time, because we presumably will have done that. But set it in, I don't know, Atlantic City. And have it be
you
like
saw the map of the vaults. Like there's so many vaults around the United States.
Yeah,
set it
so
Vault 69.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's get Vault 69 in there. Really nice. But let's, let's go to Atlantic City and do a season that's just like a gangster type thing, where we've got kind of, we've got everyone in kind of sharp suits doing organized crime and bootlegging and what have you. Let's do another season that's set like right kind of out in the Midwest in a much more sparse area that's more purely like a Western. Let's do another season that's set in another city that's a film noir, a Nick Valentine style detective thing. I think like the they could really just lean into the various genres that Fallout is clearly inspired by without having to always be about the same characters, because the best thing about adapting Fallout, and this is where I'll say that, you know, there's been the argument of, is this the best video game adaptation or is The Last of Us the best video game adaptation? They're both wrong. Season 1 of Castlevania is the best video game adaptation.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
but for me, this one works better because I saw The Last of Us Season 1 in 2013, and it was called The Last of Us, and it was a PS3 game, you know? It was good. It's great. It's really nice that, like, non-gamers get to, you know, appreciate that story. But the best bits of The Last of Us on TV were where it deviated. And
Right.
Fallout is a story
Kind of all
about
deviation.
Story is all about story. Fallout is all about deviation. Fallout is a story of its world, and to only explore that world through the lens of 3 specific characters is a huge misstep. You've got the whole of America there. You've got like all of kind of this very specific kind of facet of American culture and beyond that you can explore. And I think that's what we need. Like, let's give Lucy and Maximus and Cooper, to give him his real name, let's give them a satisfying conclusion and let them go on with whatever they're doing. Their story continues, and then we jet off somewhere else, and then somewhere else, and Fallout continues to evolve and expand and just have fun with its world rather than shackle itself to its protagonists.
Big time, actually. Yeah, I think that what's interesting about the two shows as a comparison, as they are being compared right now, The Last of Us, now we're moving into season 2, we're moving into rocky territory, of course. You know, people are going to have all kinds of different reactions to that. And then potentially moving onwards beyond that point, who even really knows? But with Fallout, it seems like the future is potentially brighter because there's so much they could possibly do with it, because they're not adapting just a straight up video game plot. They are just using that world as a vehicle to tell stories. And I'm actually all about the anthology thing. I hadn't even thought about that before, but it's a great way to do it. Even if it wasn't necessarily as cut and dry as 2 seasons for these characters and then we move on to the next, we kind of have them go a little bit longer, but we're introduced to another character and then someone drops off and we make more room for somebody else, and kind of moving across the map that way. Because I think if you go kind of cut and went, right, we're on to a new set of characters, people might disengage from it and be like, oh, I cared about these guys. But that way, you're kind of like, oh, we're metering it out from next bit to next bit and kind of transforming it. And it gives the show longer legs like that. Because I do think that, and I've always thought this with Fallout, even as someone that hasn't played the games, the world is so interesting. There's so much you could do with it. So the show has the potential to do so much if it continues to be as well received as it has been so far.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. And I understand that, taking an abrupt pivot from Lucy Maximus and the Ghoul might come across as very odd. But yeah, like a gradual shift, but still a marked shift to other genres and places, I think would be, let them feed into one another maybe is a good way to do it.
So, when it comes to the Fallout series, developers Bethesda pretty much have a playground to create basically anything they want. As all of the Fallout games are set in the irradiated wastelands of America, this setting allows Bethesda to put their minds to work and create some of the most truly disgusting creatures in video game history. And boy howdy have they tried to fill that order. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 most disgusting creatures in Fallout history. Number 10, Centaur. Basically a bulbous mound of flesh with various protruding limbs, the Centaurs are the absolute embodiment of nightmare fuel. They are an iconic part of the series and are usually found shuffling around alongside super mutants. The very sight of them is enough to make your skin crawl. I mean, they look humanoid, but they're so deformed and mutated that they truly are disgusting. Despite their human-ish appearance, Fallout lore states that the Centaur is actually a mix of humans, dogs, and cats, all just mushed together as one. All 3 of these were thrown into vats filled with the forced evolutionary Evolutionary Virus, or FEV, and what came out afterwards, well, looked like this. The appearance of the Centaur also varies depending on the location and game it appears in as well. In Fallout 1 and 2, for example, the Centaur had 2 heads. In the more modern games, such as Fallout 3 and New Vegas, they have a single head. Not content with making the Centaur look horrific enough in Fallout 3, Obsidian also managed to make it even worse by introducing evolved Centaurs into New Vegas. These monsters are larger, more deadly, and have masses of tumors on their backs as well, which is just great. Now, the Centaur was left on the cutting room floor for Fallout 4, but the image that is now on your screen right now makes it very clear that the developers were going to lean even more into making the Centaur look as horrific as possible. Number 9, the Rad Scorpion. You'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who actually likes scorpions, so when giant mutated versions of scorpions show up in the wastelands of America, they are really, really horrific. Quite a common enemy across the entire series, the Rad Scorpions are known for being fast, agile, and armed with a potent venom from their stingers. When they scuttle towards you across the ground, their stinger arched across their back and their giant claws out to embrace you in a loving hug, which can also be read as a desire to crush you to death, it's hard to suppress a shiver going down the spine. In Fallout's lore, Rad Scorpions are relatively tame compared to other creatures. They're simply your common scorpion, but after years of exposure to excessive levels of radiation, have been bumped up into massive sizes. From time to time, just when you think you've gotten used to the Rad Scorpions, another even more massive one shows up for good measure. In both Fallout 3 and New Vegas, there are giant Rad Scorpions as well, which usually show up in pairs. Brilliant. Number 8, Wendigo. Now, if you've never played Fallout 76, then you may have never even come across one of the most terrifying creatures in the entire series, the Wendigo. The Wendigo, or Wendigo, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Now, these things have walked straight out of a bloody horror movie. Their faces resemble skulls, they're horribly emaciated, and their arms are elongated. And when you add on some horrible wispy black hair, masses of jagged teeth, and sharp claws for good measure, all the while making horrible noises such as raspy breathing, and you have got a nightmare maker. Plus, they're a force to be reckoned with as well, because this creature is fast and agile, stalking towards you on its elongated arms and swiping away at you with its huge claws before you can even react. Now, Fallout's lore about these monsters is sketchy at best. It's believed, but not confirmed, that this is actually a human who resorted to cannibalism and, likely through mutation and years of eating flesh, saw the human evolve into, well, this. And when you add in the horribly burnt, scorched version, or the radiation-infective, glowing one, this is a creature I definitely don't want to meet. Number 7, Abomination Concept. If you played Fallout 3's Mothership Zeta DLC, then you've encountered an abomination before. In that DLC pack, the abominations resemble Grey-style aliens, but are in reality humans that have been experimented on by the aliens and have been turned into something awful. However, released concept art from the Fallout games shows that the abomination could have been even more horrifying before it was left on the cutting room floor. This hulking brute of a monster has everything you could possibly want in a disgusting creature. It's got an arm which ends in a crab claw, it's got a tentacle arm covered in suckers that does not look healthy, plus its face has human-ish eyes but a completely deformed mouth kind of thing with weird spikes sticking out of its head. While it looks absolutely awful, it's a real shame that Bethesda didn't decide to implement this version of the abomination into the games and instead opted for a more traditional-looking alien. Number 6, Mirelurks. Look, Mirelurks are pretty bad enough already. These horrible mutated crab humanoid things love to lurk near bodies of water and also love to scuttle towards you waving their way too many legs and pincers. Then there's the Mirelurk Kings as well. These are much more human-like than the standard Mirelurk and have terribly deformed human faces and the ability to scream right in your face when antagonized. In fact, there are loads of different variations of Mirelurks, each of them as horrifying as the last. There's the infected ones with Nuka-Cola that glow blue, creepy Mirelurk hatchlings, and even more aggressive variants known as Mirelurk Hunters. In Fallout lore, Mirelurks are said to have been the very first mutated creatures to drag their horrible selves out of the swamps of the wasteland. The mutations actually began long before the bombs dropped, as megacorporations were dumping radioactive pollution into the waters of the world. The very worst of the lot, though, is the Mirelurk Queen. Appearing in Fallout 4, the Mirelurk Queen is about 4 times the size of a standard Mirelurk, extremely dangerous, and is none too happy about you invading her territory. Number 5. Floaters. Appearing in the original 2 Fallout games and going missing for a while until they resurfaced with a brand new look in Fallout 76, the floater is, as its name suggests, a weird floating enemy with way too many teeth, bulbous bits, and other deformed things. In Fallout 1 and 2, the original floater design is very different to how it appears today. In those games, they resembled strange-looking worms which reared up their heads off the ground, and their head was actually a giant hole of sorts filled with razor-sharp teeth. In Fallout 76, they're completely different. These new floaters floater variations have a large, bulbous, glowing coloured head, way too many eyes, and their bodies appear to be covered in tumours before ending in a long tail-like appendage that trails down below them as they float off the ground. In the art of Fallout 3, a render for a lamprey floater also exists, but this was cut for unknown reasons. The floater was also considered for its inclusion in Fallout New Vegas, and a named asset file for them does exist. However, it doesn't appear that they got very far with implementing this creature, as its graphical asset is identical to the Centaur. Number 4. Honeybeast. What do you get when you combine the best parts of a spider with the common honeybee? The absolutely horrifying honeybeast, that is what. First introduced in Fallout 76, these creatures came about as honeybees began to mutate in the wastelands of Appalachia. The mutation must have been quite something though, as they're now bigger than humans, have weird hives sticking out of their backs that ooze honey, and can no longer fly due to their huge mass. As the honeybeast moves, what looks like normal bees still buzz around it, implying that they live inside the mutated hives on its back. Its head is reminiscent of a honeybee as well, what with its large antennae and huge eyes. When you're playing Fallout 76 and you first encounter one of these things, you will remember it. The way they move towards you is far too reminiscent of a spider, and they're without doubt one of the most disgusting creatures the developers of Fallout have ever created. Number 3. Feral ghouls. While many ghouls in Fallout are just poor, unfortunate souls who are human and have just been irradiated so badly they basically haven't got any flesh left, the feral ghoul is entirely another thing. As their name suggests, feral ghouls have let the radiation completely erase their minds. They're no longer even close to human and roam in packs, attacking anything they see. If you're unfamiliar with the feral ghoul, well, picture this. They're essentially walking bones with a tiny amount of flesh. Think sunken eye sockets, no nose, protruding teeth, ragged clothes, ribs sticking out. Basically, they are the zombies of the Fallout universe. And when you're down the tunnels in the dark and being attacked by these things en masse, it can be one of the most heart-pounding moments in any of the Fallout games. In the lore of Fallout, many people are prejudiced against ghouls in general because of the feral nature that the other ghouls showcase. And you can find feral ghouls pretty much everywhere in the Fallout games, but they particularly like to hang out in dungeons where it's dark and dank so that they can leap out of the shadows and scare the bloody bejesus out of you. Number 2. Fog crawlers. Nothing like a good old trek through the foggy wilderness, is there? You can become one with nature, see the sights, smell the fresh air, and, if you're lucky, encounter some of the resident wildlife. Of course, if you're a Vault survivor in the wastelands of the Fallout universe, the resident wildlife in the foggy wilderness is probably something you really don't want to encounter. The fog crawler, as its name suggests, likes to hang out anywhere there's fog or cloud. These giant-sized monsters are mutated crustaceans and are believed to be an irradiated descendant of the common shrimp. Their only appearance in the series so far is in Fallout 4's DLC pack Far Harbor, and you know what? That is fine with me, because these things hit hard and their terrifying appearance as they slink towards you out of the fog is enough to put you off seafood for the best part of a week. One of the creepiest things about the fog crawler though is its speed. As it doesn't use ranged attacks, it'll scuttle towards you at an extremely fast rate, meaning that you best be on your toes lest you end up being snapped by its huge claws. And number 1, the Cazador. Most of us humans really don't like bugs, so when Fallout New Vegas introduced us to giant-sized bugs called Cazadors, which may well be one of the most deadly creatures in the game, you can imagine the revulsion that we all felt. I mean, they just look awful. Their wings are disgusting with big thick veins running through them, their heads and eyes are freaky as hell, and their bodies end with a large stinger-like appendage that is just awful. Plus, they're also packing an extremely potent venom that can sap your health almost instantly if you're not strong enough. To make matters worse, it's very rare for a Cazador to fly alone. They appear to be very sociable monstrosities, as you'll often see them in packs of up to 4, and when they're all flying at you like crazy and swarming you with their stingers, it becomes true nightmare fuel. In Fallout lore, the Cazador was created in the labs of Big MT by Dr. Boreas, who was experimenting with DNA. Yeah, cheers for that, Doc. The future really needed giant deadly bugs on top of everything else.
The Fallout series keeps telling us that war never changes, but that sense of repetition certainly doesn't seem to ring true when we're fighting our way across the franchise's wastelands. These games offer a different experience every time you start over, with new secrets, Easter eggs, and hidden quests on each playthrough. Even if you've explored irradiated Boston to death, the previous games are worth revisiting, as there are plenty of secrets that slipped under your radar the first time around. I'm Jess from What Culture, and here are 10 secrets you still haven't found in the Fallout games. Number 10. The Mysterious Stranger File. Fallout 4. This is a wonderful Easter egg that ties Fallout 4 to almost every single entry that came before it, albeit in a pretty small way. The mysterious stranger, a trenchcoat garbed enigma straight out of film noir, has been showing up in these games since the original, helping the player out in tight spots if they happen to be equipped with a specific perk. There are few people in the wastelands of post-apocalyptic America who know the first thing about the character's identity, but one who does is Fallout 4 companion Nick Valentine. And with a little detective work, you can find out more about him too. Valentine's case file on the mysterious stranger is located under the bed in his office at Diamond City. It's a great read, documenting the arcane gunslinger's appearances all the way back to the first Fallout game. Number 9. The Cheers Bar. Fallout 4. Perhaps you did stumble upon this decaying shell of a drinking hole while wandering the Commonwealth, but there's more to it than meets the eye. Near Boston Common and Swans Pond, there's a set of stairs which lead to a basement bar called Probst, which translates from German as Cheers. Yep, that means exactly what you think it does. This is indeed a recreation of the bar from the iconic US sitcom Cheers, and all the main characters are present. Norm and Cliff are propped up on their usual stools, and Frasier Crane is sat near the entrance. But they've long since forgotten your name, having withered away to dried up old skeletons. Okay, so it's a little depressing seeing the corpses of the Cheers cast, but even Boston's favorite bar isn't immune to the effects of the apocalypse. Number 8. Sniper Shack. Fallout 3. There's something of a housing crisis in Fallout 3's capital wasteland. Decent accommodation is super hard to come by, unless you're happy about murdering an entire town of people who are nothing but nice to you just so you could get a great penthouse. But there is one prime piece of real estate you can secure without murdering scores of innocent people. Hidden away up in the mountains above Rocco's Last Gas is a quaint little shack made from haphazardly arranged sheets of corrugated iron. It may not look like much from the outside, but its interiors make this a property that's worth tracking down. Inside, there's loot aplenty, including the Victory rifle, and even a workbench for your equipment modding needs. The only downside to the Sniper Shack is that it's located in a rough neighborhood. Expect to be greeted by regulators or Talon Company mercs every time you step out of your front door. But hey, at least it gives you some easy XP. Number 7. Alien Crash Site. Fallout 3. One of the coolest things that off the beaten track wandering has ever thrown up in Fallout 3, the alien spacecraft wreckage can be found by heading to the MDPL-13 power station and following the power lines to the south. Most players won't need another reason to go tracking this one down since it's a freaking UFO, but just in case you do, there's also a really powerful weapon there and a bunch of rare ammo. The crash site is where you can obtain an alien blaster, as well as 120 alien power cells, which are hard to come by around the capital wasteland. Number 6. AER-14 Prototype Laser. Fallout New Vegas. One of Fallout New Vegas's must-have weapons is also one of its best-kept secrets, hidden in the maze-like depths of Vault 22. The ARE-14 is an energy weapon and a successor to the ARE-9 and ARE-12. It's more powerful than either of those and fires snazzy green lasers instead of red. The only drawback is that it's a prototype, which means the gun breaks after 42 reloads. Still, it's worth seeking out, and you can find Vault 22 by heading to the southwest of the Griffin Ware's sacked caravan, east of Jacobstown and west from the Thorn. The entrance to the vault can then be found at the bottom of the cliff. Number 5. Anywhere I Wander. Fallout New Vegas. This side quest from Fallout New Vegas often goes unnoticed by first-time players as it isn't one you naturally stumble upon. It's tucked away between Camp Nelson and Teachaticut Mine, accessible via a small road. Taking this unmarked path will lead you to Private Reynolds, who informs you that NCR soldiers have been taken hostage by a Caesar's Legion garrison. Accept the quest and you'll be plunged into an epic subterranean rescue mission. If you hold influence with the Legion, you can blag your way inside and eventually negotiate with Alexis over the prisoner's release. Alternatively, if the Legion hates your guts, then the all guns blazing approach is even more satisfying. Anywhere I Wander is a quest worth embarking on. Post completion, you receive the usual injection of XP, along with the location for Camp Forlorn Hope and NCR fame. Number 4. Infinite Bottle Caps Trick. Fallout. There's an argument to be made, and an argument I would personally make and have made, that RPGs these days are getting a lot easier, especially Bethesda RPGs. Head back to the first Fallout if you don't believe me. Its isometric wasteland is more unforgiving than the 3D worlds which followed, so you might want to call on this trick to level the playing field, should you choose to venture back there for some nostalgic kicks. Every Fallout game ever made seems to have the odd glitch here and there, and this was one that you could exploit to secure infinite bottle caps. In Junktown, you'll encounter Killian Darkwater. He's the settlement's mayor and the owner of its general store, but he's also your mine for an endless pool of cash. Steal from Killian and take his bottle caps. Once you've carried out this amoral act, save the game and load it back up again. All of Killian's inventory should be replenished, so you're free to go ahead and steal from him all over again. Number 3, the literal Easter egg. Fallout 2. The Fallout series is packed to the rafters with Easter eggs, from movie references to historical artifacts, but none are more literal than this one from Fallout 2. In New Reno West Side, you'll come across a gun emporium called New Reno Arms. Head to the basement and you'll discover an array of tools, ammo, and even a howitzer, but that's not what you came in here for. On the far right of the screen is a pot covered by a mattress, and the hand icon will appear when you hover the cursor over it. Inside the pot is an Easter egg. Literally, it's a chicken's egg decorated with colorful paint patterns. Word has it that Fallout 2's development team originally intended for a companion character called the chicken to hatch from the egg, but for whatever reason this plan was shelved, and the item is purely for novelty value. Nevertheless, I think we can all agree you cannot claim to have found every single Fallout Easter egg if you haven't found the real one. Number 2. XO1 Power Armor. Fallout 4. Fast forward back to the current generation and no Fallout 4 players should be without the XO1 power armor, but many fail to discover it in their maiden playthrough. The game's most powerful armor is easily missed since it doesn't have a landmark on the map, but traveling east of Goodneighbor will put you right in the vicinity. Head to the custom house tower and go southwest until you find the building 35 Court. Once you're at the top of the building, 2 high-level robot baddies will attack. You might want to save your game before this point because they're tough as hell, and they're the last thing standing between you and the XO1 power armor. Once you've turned these foes into scrap metal, hit the button inside the alcoves the robots emerge from, and your shiny new suit will present itself. Number 1. Isabella Proud's Camp. Fallout 3. The Fallout universe is filled with hidden side stories, some told through quests, some books, some terminals, some holotapes, and this one in particular is deeply tragic. Isabella Proud's camp is particularly well hidden, requiring players to carefully navigate around a number of obstacles in Tacoma Park to gain access to its factory. The camp itself is located behind this building. The camp is populated by 2 dead scientists in yellow radiation suits and a bunch of feral ghouls, including a named one known as Samuel. One of the corpses is that of Isabella Proud, and her sad tale spins out in a nearby research terminal. Isabella was a researcher interested in exploring and studying feral ghouls, and her husband Jason was uneasy about her work. Understandably. After discovering that ghouls are drawn to radiation, she covered both of their suits with a radioactive resin to attract them. Their ultimate fate is ambiguous, but the corpses they left behind suggests it wasn't nice. It's unclear whether the radioactive resin killed them, or the ghouls Isabella was hoping to study were her downfall.